welcome to Paperback Flicks.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody, to another Paperback Flicks. I'm Ray Davidson,
I'm Ruth Craddock.
and we are discussing the aptly named Never-Ending Story.
Very aptly named,
It was
as I found out when I
mind
read it.
us. That's when I got about half. There's two parts to the book. I didn't know.
Yes, if you didn't know, if you've only seen the first movie and you were either unaware there was a sequel of the movie or had never seen it, you would actually think that something was very wrong when you got halfway through the book and the movie section had already been over and you're like, what else is there to tell? And there's a whole nother story. And you're like,
Yeah.
what the? And it felt like it took forever to read that second half of the story.
Yes. It felt
Forever.
like the first half, maybe because I'm used to the movie,
Yeah,
that
you have
that I
some idea
kind of
where
knew
you're
what was going
going.
on. And like I understand like because there's always going to be more stuff in the book than they end up putting in the movie. And so when
Hmm.
there was other stuff, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's cool, that's cool. And then they got to the part where she does the whole like it's the final grain of sand or whatever. And I thought, okay, so now obviously they need to like wrap it up. And so, oh, cool, they wrap it up with a chapter or two of him building out his Fantasia, right?
Hmm. No.
No, that's the whole second half of the book, and it goes on for 100,000 years.
Yes. Feels like a long time. I've read thousand plus page, sorry,
Right.
books before, and it did not take this long to read as it did with this one. Plus, I've
Yes.
gotten out of the habit of reading physical books, and I couldn't find an audiobook of this one. I wonder why. And I had to read it as a physical book. So, like,
Mhm.
what's funny is when you first contacted me telling me that you had finished reading the book and watched the movie, I hadn't even gotten my physical book yet. I was still waiting for it to come in the mail. I was like, crap, she's
Well,
already done.
well, and what I had done is I had read through the part one, and
Hmm.
then I had started reading like I got to chapter 17, like the Silver City, and
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, this is like a whole nother like he'd been through the jungle and he had been with the many-colored death, and I'm
Yeah,
like, okay,
uh-huh.
this is not the end of the, like, that's when I
There's
was like,
more, a lot more.
yeah, I'm like, it really is the never-ending story. But I had figured, okay, so we've we've completed the movie, so I'm just gonna kind of set this down. And then you were like, "Oh, well, hey, are you also watching the sequel?" And I'm like, "Oh crap, there's a sequel? Then I need to finish the book."
I have to read the rest of the book. That's
So,
yeah.
so I did read the rest of the book.
Good. Did you watch the
Yeah.
sequel?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. All right, because I have lots to say.
Yeah, so I know that a lot of times I like to be like, let's discuss the book and then let's discuss the movie. But I feel like we almost can't. Like to a degree
Yeah.
we can, but they kind of are so integrated that I kind of will probably jump around back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, we kind of do anyways, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's kind of hard to really. I actually literally, when we watched the sequel, I was stopping the movie every once in a while to explain to my son what really happened in the book.
Right.
And so that took longer to watch that movie because of that. But
Right. So I felt like the first movie was just like I said, it is essentially the first the part one. Obviously, they had to pull a few things because they were not prepared to make a 3.5 hour movie,
hmm.
and that's fine. And then I feel like book the sequel was like Ella Enchanted, right? It was
Hmm.
marginally inspired by, you know, it was quite different, but I actually found out why. So, in the original, in the Neverending Story, in the movie that we're all familiar with, or that our generation is all familiar with,
Hmm.
um, it's pretty clear. Like the whole reason that Atreyu has to go on this journey is to pull Bastian into the world of fantasy, right?
He believes in
Because
it enough to want to actually go there.
because fantasy can't the people of fantasy can't come into our world and they can't take anything with them. And the only thing that the book is essentially a doorway um to Fantasia, and
Hmm.
so it isn't like it kind of exists a little bit in both worlds, but it doesn't belong to either world, right? It is the
Yeah.
bridge. Okay. So at the end of the first movie, because they were not prepared to do part two as a movie at that time in 84,
Hmm.
they kind of what's it workshopped several different ways to end it. Do we just end it with Sebastian has the sand? Do we just end it there? Because that's kind of lame. Do we come up with our own ending? Do we kind of leave it open, like maybe there'll be a sequel someday in the future? What do we do? And they ultimately ended up doing the final scene that we're all familiar with,
Hmm.
where his wish, he's supposed to make wishes with Orin, and the first wish that he makes is to ride Falkor. Like he brings back everything that was destroyed of Fantasia, and then he rides Falkor like into the alley of his world and like
Chases down his bullies.
right
In the
chases
real
down
world,
his
nobody
bully.
responds to it besides the bullies.
Right, nobody else
Which
sees
makes
it.
sense because in the beginning of the movie, when the bullies were chasing him down the middle of the street, middle of the New
Right,
York street, by the way, which I'm
right,
surprised nobody ran them over. Nobody stops these bullies. I mean, I understand that New Yorkers ignore other grown-ups, but they don't ignore children, do they? Are they that heartless? I mean, come on. This is the 80s.
yeah,
It might be
yeah,
that way now, but nobody's stopping this boy being chased by these three kids,
right.
obviously harassing him in the middle of the freaking street into an
And
alley.
the original book is German, and I don't remember what city he's supposed to be in, but it is like a big city,
Okay.
like that. Like it
Mm-hmm.
is, I don't know if it's Berlin or I don't know where, but
Yeah.
it is like a big city. Like he is not in just some small town where you can run past the six cars that people have,
Yeah.
like
No.
yeah. And so, yeah, the fact that everybody ignores him and then later everybody ignores the dragon or whatever, and it's supposed to be like, oh, because they can't see it because they're so detached from
Only children can. Or
right,
it's
right.
only magic-ish.
People that believe, right?
Yeah.
So like that's kind of their concept. And it was his name Inde? I forget the name of the author, how you say his name, but
We'll
German
put
name.
it
I
there, like we do
don't know.
when we
But
don't know.
yeah, he loved this. He loved that they were making the movie. He loved the way they made the childlike empress look. Like he was so happy with Falkor. He was totally fine with they changed it from like a lion head to like a dog head because that felt more friendly to children or something,
Okay.
and it was probably easier to make or whatever. I don't know. But
Yeah.
like he was cool with all the changes they need to make until they made this scene, and he was like, "No, absolutely not. The whole point is that they couldn't just come to our world. If they
Yeah.
could have done that in the beginning, they would have done that in the beginning. You know,
Yeah.
like the whole point is that Bastian had to choose to let himself be conveyed to this world, and only Bastian can get back. Like he can't take anything with him except his memories and his knowledge and
Mm-hmm.
what he learns. Like that's the point, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so he was so angry. He actually sued the the was it Warner Brothers? He sued the studio and tried to stop the release of the movie because he was so all fired angry about this. Ultimately, he lost. But that's why part two, the next chapter, or Neverending Story, the next chapter, they had the rights to make the movie, but they needed to tell their own story. So they took the making wishes with the Orin takes his memories away. They used the witch who was kind of manipulating him,
Mm-hmm.
but they told their own story with that basic premise, including how to get him back into
Yeah.
Fantasia. Um, and the stuff with his dad, that all they kind of had to
They
make
had to
for
change
their
it enough that it wouldn't be a copyright thing or something.
right that
Yeah.
right that he couldn't say this is my story and you guys have bastardized it. Like
Mm-hmm.
clearly we drew from your story, held true to the basic concept, but we told our own story. Like that
Yeah.
was So,
Okay.
and then there's apparently a third movie that I did not watch. Um,
I did not know there's a third movie.
I mean, it's
Why?
just that's just a moneymaker. Like, you know what I mean?
Did the second one really do that well?
No, but like, it's like it's like the Land Before Time, how the first one was a gigantic success. Everybody was so excited about the second one. The second one was kind of lame, and now there's like six of
And
them.
like, so that's interesting. So I just kind of assumed they didn't stay true to the second half of the book because of money and extras and like how much more expensive it would be to have all the extra people that you have in the second part of the book. There's a lot of
Right,
new characters. There's like whole slews. Like he ends up having essentially his own like army of people following him.
right. And
And
they were all Fantasticans.
yeah, they're all
And
sorts of
so
different people.
yeah, they were all like weird to us. They were all like not human, and so they would have had to
Have a
go
whole
to
lot of
the
extras with a whole lot of costumes.
right,
And, it's fine to have a scene or two where you have a few extras and wearing funky costumes, but an army of them, and they
yeah,
didn't have the ability to not the same kind of abilities we do now to make fake crowds of people.
right. So that was one thing that totally like this book deserves the kind of graphics that we can do today.
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody has remade this movie.
Me too, and part of me thinks that it's nostalgia. Part of me thinks that it's like don't touch our precious memory. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
But if you read the
If
book and you appreciated the book, you
right.
liked what he was doing overall, you would want to see like a Lord of the Rings version of Neverending Story.
So say I. Yes, I would agree with that. And I do love the original. However, this is one that deserves better graphics. It just does. It deserves it.
It's
And it
not bad
kind of
considering when it was made. Like for
right,
the most part, it's pretty good.
right. And that's what I told my kids. I was like, understand, this was made like the concept of like computer graphics was literally new. Like most most productions wouldn't have even had like the Falkor flying and the like even that kind of stuff was not super prevalent at the time. A lot of their special effects were like kind of like how in the Lord of the Rings how they use like the table perspective to
Mhm.
give people different sizes.
Practical, like in camera effects or
Right. So
animation.
my favorite example, I showed the girls like we watched the movie and then I showed them the making of where so when the nothing so Atreyu has gone through all this stuff and he's like in the like ghost town or whatever where he
Hmm.
finds Morgrim or however you say his name, the werewolf. But
Oh
like
yeah.
he's like holding on to a tree because everything is being like sucked out by the nothing, right?
Hmm.
And you see him like actually like going this way. They had the entire sound stage on a gimbal with the camera mounted to it, and they turned the entire stage with the camera sideways so that he was actually holding on as the tree and everything around him rotated. So he was holding on and everything was going down, but the camera moved with him so that it looked like it was him being pulled up.
Yeah.
Like this is the kind of stuff that they're doing to make special effects.
Hmm.
And so the concept of like a CG dragon or whatever.
Yeah, they didn't do that for ages. I mean,
Right.
Jurassic Park's one of the first ones where they really combined like to that level computer animation with live action,
Right.
like where they really did it. Like before that, it was mostly 2D animation and
Right.
green screen, and that's how they were
And
like combining live
models.
action.
Lots of
Yeah,
like I said, the Falkor flying through the
models
air,
and stuff.
that's
Yeah.
like a model put on a green screen or blue screen or whatever. Like
Hmm.
that was special effects,
Yeah, that's how they did it.
pyrotechnics.
And puppets.
So so yeah, it deserves a modern revamping. However, I like that they kept true to the story to not to the story, yes to the story, but like to the message. that the story held within it. And I always worry, modern stuff has a tendency to be preachy about whatever,
Is currently the thing.
right.
Yeah.
And so what are they going to change? And I just feel like that might be ruined if it gets in the wrong hands at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So yeah, so
but
let's talk about like the major differences between the book and the
yeah.
movie. So not everybody's read the book or watched the movie. You probably should have, because we warned you what we were doing last time if you're watching the previous episode. So you might want to pause maybe and go and read it and watch it or not, and whatever you want us just to tell you, we can tell you.
Yeah, I say so I did find an audiobook. I ended up not doing it because it's like sleep the name of the um program, I don't know, is something about sleep, like the sound of sleep or sleepy time sound or something like that. And he tells everything in this melodic like
Never-ending
overtone.
stories read like that.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, no.
And so that was what I originally found, and I was like,
No.
Nope." Like I legitimately got about 3 minutes in, and I'm like, this is not gonna work for me.
I'm never gonna get through this
So,
book.
so you can do that. I wouldn't suggest it. But no, I really appreciated reading it. Um, because yeah, because there is a lot. So there's several things in the book that I feel like either they couldn't put in or they aren't the dynamic parts. Like there's a part I'm gonna jump around chronologically, but there's a part when is it Morgrim? Is that the name?
Gamork?
Oh,
Morgrim's the
Gamork.
many-colored death.
Yeah,
Gamork is the wolf.
Gamork. Yeah,
Yeah.
Gamork is the wolf thing. So when he is talking to Atreyu, I actually wrote down the quote that I really like. He says, "The power to manipulate beliefs is the only thing that matters."
Ah,
And that was like a huge, like, because he works for or works with the nothing.
the
And
nothing,
then
yeah.
later, when you experience the emptiness that
In this that they did in
the
the
witch,
second book. The
yeah,
second movie, I mean.
right. And
Not the book.
they're both kind of like of a kind, right?
Mm-hmm.
That like that is what they do. I don't remember the witch's name.
Zayed.
Zayed, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so she does like manipulate Bastian pretty quickly, actually. And she even says early on, I control everything that's empty. And then she is already working to make him empty. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so it's like, don't you see? Like she
Yeah, why
told
aren't
you
you
what
seeing
she's
this?
doing. But
Yeah.
and it's kind of like that with the nothing. Everyone knew that it was the nothing. It was going to take
Take everything until there was nothing.
right. And so when people were like, what's his name? Like the rock eater, rock biter,
They just
whatever.
call him Rockbiter. I don't know that they ever gave him a
Yeah,
name in the movie.
I think you're right. I think they just call him rock biter. But like
Hmm.
he when he's like talking about how his hands failed him, they look so strong, but he couldn't hold his friends and whatever. And in the book, it actually like they go into detail several times about how people start to they see the nothing over there and then they start to like feel the drain and they start to like let the depression set in. They
That they
start to
start to feel
believe
like an impulsion towards it, like
right. And
they can't help themselves.
right, and ultimately most people in Fantasia choose to go to the nothing.
They throw themselves in.
Right. And
Yeah.
so like kind of over and over again, he's kind of telling you the same thing that, you know, your mental illness lies to you. It is a parasite. That is, you know, your depression, your fears, they lie to you and will destroy you from within. You know, like that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
what he's telling you this whole way through, and I love that. And I love all the different ways that he does it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
So, interesting thing about first part of the book, first movie, talking about some of the things that they took out. So first off, you never see Rockbiter again past the first little little part where like
Right.
it was four messengers that met up. There
Right.
was a little fairy and a ball, and I guess they decided it was superfluous and we didn't need it, so they didn't use that character. Um, which of course, as a person that's like all about fairies and things like that, I'm a little offended on
Yeah, I
behalf of the
love that
fairy
one.
community. But so they just had Rockbiter, they had the guy on the racing snail, and then they had the Nighthawk that like has this sleepy bat thing, that giant bat thing that he flies.
Right.
And they had them all meet together and explain that they were all on the same quest and they were all going to the Childlike Empress to warn her about the nothing that was happening in their part of. Uh, so I could have sworn in the book it was Fantastica and
It
not
is.
Fantasia. Okay, all
It
right.
is.
Making sure I wasn't crazy and read it wrong a billion times. But yeah,
Yeah. No,
Fantastica, which I
it
think
was
is a better
fantastic.
name, especially since we have Fantasia as a name of the Disney thing, and it just
Right.
feels very confusing to think of them
Well,
as, yeah,
that's the same, but they're different. Yeah. So
nothing alike.
in the original book is German. It was written in German.
Mm-hmm.
And so all a lot of the names, like he is trying to like make them up and make them fantasy names,
Mm-hmm.
but apparently they're not as like weird or odd in German, but
Uh-huh.
he did purposely try to make it like a fantastical name, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
Fantastica actually is closer derived from the German. And same thing with like the name. I was kind of frustrated that they changed the name of the Empress
Mm-hmm.
to Moonchild. Because yes, it does literally translate to Moonchild, but he called her Mundikin or
Moon
Mundikind,
what?
however you say it. Mundikin,
Mootin?
Mundkin,
Moon 10.
like it's spelled like Mundi Kind, okay? But they
Okay.
pronounce it
You're
Mundkin.
gonna have to like write it up here.
Right, we'll
I'm
write
not
it. We'll
sure what
spell.
I'm hearing you say here. Okay.
Sorry. But the thing is in German, it's kind of like a cute little name. Like you'd be like, "Hey, sweet pea," but you wouldn't actually translate "Hey, sweet pea" into like a sweet smelling vegetable. Like,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
you wouldn't call somebody sweet pea in German, right? You would change it to something that made sense. So when he calls her Mundikin, he's calling her he's saying that she's as beautiful as the moon
Mm-hmm.
and she's the childlike empress. And so the kin or kind is like the forever youth, right?
Okay, yeah, okay.
And so
Forever
like
moon
what so he's
child.
saying like so it would be like a name that I would have just left her as Mundikin. Like we all would have gotten used to it. We all would have heard him saying it over and over again or read it or whatever, and we would have been fine with it. It would have felt like a name. Everybody else has a name, and
Mm-hmm.
she's given another title.
Yeah.
She's she's the childlike empress. She's the um commander of wishes, and now
Yeah.
she's also the moon child. Like
Yeah.
I was like, why did
Which
you leave
is
all the
isn't
other
the
names?
worst, but yeah, you're right. It is a little different from the other names in the book, which are very fantastical.
Right.
And also, supposedly, I don't know where my husband gets this from. I don't know if this is true or it's somewhere in the lore, but apparently Moonchild's supposed to be his mom's name. Bastian's mom's name was
Well,
Moonchild.
he says my mother had a beautiful name, and he says something about that, like if I was going to name someone, and then what is supposed to have happened is that when he sees her, how they have that moment where like she's
Hmm.
calling out to him, and he actually sees her face for a second,
And
and he
he
was like,
realizes she's looking
"Holy
back at him.
crap!" Yeah, that in that moment that he goes away from his mother's name.
Oh, okay.
He was thinking he was saying at some point, my mother had a beautiful name. She could have my mother's name, but he
Hmm.
doesn't actually say it. And then when he sees her, he recognizes that she needs her own unique name,
Oh, okay.
right? He does that later on when he's supposed to name things. He's giving power or he's giving healing or he's giving whatever by giving them a name or by giving them a
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
know, and because they're like, we exist, but but we
We don't know
exist
why. Yeah.
because they're characters in a story, and so they only exist here and now. They didn't have a past until he makes one up and he gives them that power of a history or that power of a
Mhm.
name. And
Yeah,
so,
which is one of the cool things about the second half of the book with Silver
right,
City, the whole thing where he's like, they're storytellers, but they can only tell so many stories because they can't write new stories. They can't come up with their own. So they're
right,
like, can you give us some of your stories? And he like gives them a library of stories
right,
and gives them a whole history of how the Silver City came to be. And they're like, oh my gosh, you just told us how we came to be. And you just explained what that big round building in the middle of our city is that nobody could get into all this time. And like, he's all, wait a second, I just made that up. Has it always existed? Or does it just exist now because I made it up? Or was it always meant to be? Was I always meant to tell the story? Like, it's very meta in
right,
that sense. And then they go to the library and he's able to open it because only he can.
right,
And, by giving the stone, like the rock on the door, a name, he's able
right,
to let them in and they can go in and it's all the stories he'll ever write,
right.
he'll ever come
And
up
it,
with. And it's wow.
and that is also a recurring theme that like he didn't know his own power until he was willing to trust until he saw for himself I am the one that can save you. He doesn't recognize the value of whatever until so that's kind of part of this with like that rock was just a rock until he gave it a name and he didn't know what name to give it. He couldn't just stand back and be like, "Oh, it needs a name? Martin." Like
No, he just whatever felt right in the moment, like looked
right.
at it
He
and
had
knew his name.
yeah, he had to experience it and he could know then what to call it. Like
Hmm.
like that was part of his power. And so, yes, he does talk about, oh, my mother had a beautiful name, but once he sees her, once he makes that contact with her, he
Hmm.
knows I have to give her her unique name.
Her own name, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I like
So,
that makes a little more sense to me.
yeah.
um so yeah, so first we're jumping around, of course, that's what we do.
Sorry.
So first half of the book slash movie, the main things that they changed is how we met Falkor.
Mhm.
I'm very proud of myself that I kept calling him folklore this whole time because I couldn't help myself. My husband was like, "You're gonna say it wrong," and the thing, and I was like, "Falkor, Falkor, Falkor." Anyway, so I didn't say it, but I told you that that's what I was saying. So
Yep.
not the same thing. Anyways, Falkor. When he met Falkor was very different in the book. In the book, he like literally tried to save him from this giant spider and this giant
Mhm.
web and this canyon of, was it like a canyon of sorrow or something
Yeah.
that was past the swamps of sadness, and he was trying to go the 10 million miles away to get to the or 10 million days away, I swear it was in the book, uh,
Right.
to get to where the Southern Oracle was. He goes through this canyon and Folkor's trapped in this web with the spiders biting him and attacking him, and he's trying to fight him because he's a luck dragon. He's having more luck surviving than
Mhm.
most people would or animals would. And Bash, not Bastion, sorry, Atreyu. Sorry.
Yeah.
Atreyu asks if he can have him. He's like, I kind of commands him in the name of the queen. I have the Orin. I need this dragon to take me to the Southern Oracle to save, Fantastica from the nothing. And he's like, well, I can't let you have my snack, my food. I don't often get food. So no, I can't do that for you, but I can give you a way to get there. It's a secret, just don't tell anybody. And he's like, okay. And he's like, my venom, when I bite you, will give you one wish. And you can wish yourself there.
Mhm.
But you're gonna die within an hour, but she'll be there because the venom's supposed to kill you within an hour. So like,
Right.
okay, I guess that's better than not getting there at all, or hope I have enough time to save the Empress before I die. So he says, okay. And so the spider bites him and he like makes the wish and zooms over there. But apparently Falkor, am I saying it wrong now?
Falcor.
Falkor. Oh no, I was doing so good. Falkor. Um, he overhears this. He's still alive enough to hear this that he makes a wish too. Because he's
Mhm.
bitten a whole lot. So he has a lot of the venom in him. So he goes to the Sun Oracle with the Atreyu
Mhm.
and winds up there. And it so happens conveniently that there are these cute little like elfie-like people that live
Yeah.
near the Southern Oracle. One of them studies the Southern Oracle, and his like whole life has been about the scientific research of the Southern Oracle and the people that go in and how it works and everything. And they happen to live right there where they get dropped off from the wish, and they're able to heal them and nurse them back to health. So they magically don't die from
Right.
the bite.
So something that I did not get until so I read through the whole book and I watched the movies and then I was trying to do a little bit of research before we do this.
Hmm.
And th at the very end, that what we can circle back to it, but at the very end when they're doing the like water of life or
Yeah,
whatever,
water life. Yeah.
um, and
And the
Atreyu
orange.
says, "We've already drank from it, though we didn't know it at the time." This is what he's talking about.
Oh,
That woman who knows every healing everything,
okay.
she knew that the only that was his intent, that the author's intent, that
Okay.
she knew that the only thing that could save them was this water,
Of life.
whatever.
Hmm.
And in the same way that her husband had devoted his entire life to studying the oracles, she has devoted her entire life to healing, and
Hmm.
um, so that's what it is. So she gave them both actually of the water of life or whatever, because Falkor is a luck dragon. So of course they landed in just the right spot, and of course it happens to be the woman, that the only person in the world possibly
Who would know how to heal them? Yeah.
who would know how to heal them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess that works, but that's one of the things that I noticed. So it was one of the so from a writing standpoint, from as a writer and a reader, um, the book is well written in like how it describes things and how it sets things up, but
Mhm.
it's not well written in the way the plot works. And some of
Right.
the characters are written rather poorly. Um, So and that's just the book. That's not just the movies. That's the book. So
Right.
in the book, there always has to be a convenient way in which you got to do something, but you can't do it this way. You got to do that. But then once you get there, you can't do it that way. You got to go do this. And like, there's always
Right.
a you got to do this. You got to do that. That. And then eventually, the childlike empress explains, well, you had to do all that. Like to Atreyu, when Atreyu shows back up at the end to the ivory tower after all this stuff he's done to try to okay, so first he has to find out from Morla how to do it. And Morla's like, well, I don't really remember, but you can go to Southern Oracle. Though in the book, Morla told him he had to find a human had to give him a name, and only a human could do it.
Right.
Or was that said in the very beginning? Like it was already told to us early on. Like he didn't
Yeah,
even
I
learn that from the Oracle
right.
in the
I think
book.
it was Marla that said it. I thought that she was the one that revealed that. But also she was crazy, and so you're like, I don't know what you
Well,
mean.
not how. Yeah, exactly. And then he's like, I don't even care. We don't even care if we care. And that's something we quote around our house a lot, or I quote around our house a lot.
Yeah, didn't
Just
care.
because. Um, anyways, well, yeah, so Morla tells him that you have to get a human child to give the name. He's like, well, how do I get a human child? He's like, I don't know. Go ask the Southern Oracle. They might know. But then it's like 10,000 miles away. And so it's like he'll never get there. He'll die before he'll get there. But it
Mhm.
all works out that he happens to get the luck dragon. He happens to get bit. He happens to show up in the right place. There happens to be somebody to save him. And I get that that's all sort of on purpose, but it's also bad writing.
Yeah,
From a
it's a
writer's
lot of
standpoint, it's not good writing. Yes, it's a children's book.
right.
So, like,
It's a
that's how
lot
you
of
write children's
Deus
books. You can do that, but it's also,
right. It's a
yeah,
lot of Deus ex machina. It's supposed to appeal to him, and in
hmm
his oversimplified, like
his
the
notion of
luck
adventure is that
dragon.
this almost happens, and then last minute get saved, and that's what's
Yeah,
exciting to him. Yeah, okay.
yeah. And so I agree with you that it is a little bit convenient over and over and over again, and it almost gets like there's almost no real peril.
Yeah,
If everything is if everything is just looked into it, savable, then nothing is really in peril. You kind of go, oh well, let's see how he gets through that, which is what makes Artax dying like so like gut wrenching, especially as you go through the rest of it and you're like, everything else turns out fine. Like,
but not that. Until the very end, when
right,
he like when Bastion puts everything back and everybody's back again.
right.
Then, Atrax is back. But what was also more impactful about in the book, Atrax can talk. And when
Yes,
he's dying, he's telling him, you just let me go, leave me be. Like, you have to save the childlike empress. I can't go on. You just have to go on without me. And it's so much more impactful having the
yes.
animal tell you, go on without me, than
It
just
breaks your
watching
heart.
this animal just like sink into the thing. And yeah, Atreyu was like, oh, stop. You gotta move. You gotta keep going. And like, you see his emotional turmoil, but it would have been so much more like a sacrifice and so much more like a selfless act that the
Right,
horse recognizes he cannot continue going with him because he's
right.
not protected by Orin like
And
Atreyu
he,
is.
and
And
he
that's the other thing
explains
that I
that.
don't like that they did in the movie is they show because they don't show the canyon where he meets Falkor. He like instead he just keeps trudging through the swamp trying to get out and then eventually hope they'll make it to the Oracle someday. And then he starts to give in to the sadness and he starts thinking to himself and it's like, no, Orin's protecting him from that. Orin makes it so he can't be affected in the same way.
Right,
So that's not possible based off of the mechanics within the story. But
right.
they
They
have
don't
Falkor come and save him last minute
right,
before Gamora can get him, the wolf created by the Nothing,
right.
and then Falkor takes him to the Southern Oracle.
Yeah. So they don't explain it in the movie. That always did kind of bug me. I'm like, look how freaking sad he is. He's in the swamps of sadness, and they're like, oh, if the sadness gets to you, then it'll suck you under. The horse got too sad to move on, but the boy who is like screaming and weeping and
Just lost his horse too. Everyone's like, but he's sad. Why isn't he? That's what my kids are saying. They're like, he's sad. Why is he singing? I'm like, Oren's keeping him from getting too sad.
right.
Something like
Which
that.
that was explained in the book. Like the horse says that as he's dying, like you said. Like he's like I always knew this was suicide. As soon as like he I don't remember
But
exactly
I
how
would
he
have
says
gone with
it.
you either way. So yeah.
Yeah, he's like I knew that I wouldn't be making it out of here, but that never stopped me from going or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
that like made me like genuinely because when I was a kid and I saw that, I was always like, no,
No,
Artex,
not
you know.
Atrax.
But then you go on with the story and you're fine.
Yeah,
That stuck with me. That Artax being able to speak, he's that much more like there is something to like you lose your pet, fine. That can be very heartbreaking. I've lost a few of
it
them.
is
I
terribly
understand. However, you lose a child, a sibling, your
something
best
that can
friend,
communicate love and feelings back to you. That can tell you
right.
they love you too. That hurts so much more.
Right.
Right.
Someone who can not just like feel connected to you, but can look you in the eye and say, I always knew that I would die on this journey, but I wanted to be with you. Like,
Oh,
oh my gosh. Like,
yeah. That gets you right
uh,
here.
so then for later on, for everything to be like, oh no, fixed it,
Fixed it. Everything's fine.
kind of
Yeah.
did
So in
feel
like
like,
the book though, Atrax does not come back.
yeah,
When Bastion like fixes everything, he doesn't fix everything to back to how it was in the book.
right,
He creates essentially a whole new Fantastica or Fantasia.
right,
And like even when you see Atreyu again, he's with Falkor. He's not with Atrax. So
correct.
Atrax doesn't come back in the book. So that's kind of like the one thing that sort of really like of consequence that happens almost in the entire book up until a certain point. Then things start actually having consequences. Whereas
Yeah,
the
well,
first
and
half of the book, there wasn't as many consequences.
correct. Yeah. So something that I was talking about with my kids is that um everything that the nothing took was returned. But the nothing didn't take our tax. The swamps of sadness that already existed within Fantasia or
There you go. That
Fantastica.
makes sense.
Within their world,
He
he
doesn't come
was
back.
gone.
Yeah.
Gone is gone. You know.
Yeah.
But
And that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, so instead of having so yeah, there was that nagging thing of, it's one thing to have one like last minute thing that happens that saves the day. It's another thing that happens over and over and over again. But
Yeah.
like I like your explanation that that's how Bastian wants the story. That's what appeals to him, and it's written to draw him in. So that makes
Mhm.
sense. So if that's the case, if that was the author's real intent was to write it like that for that reason, then I
Yeah.
can forgive it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but reading it without that understanding, it feels very juvenile in how the characters and the plot is written.
Yeah.
Although it's written well and how it describes things and says things, it's very well written in that extent. So you're like, the person can write,
Right.
but they're purposely writing like this. So interesting. If they're doing that on purpose, then it's different. So then, second half of oh yeah, so the end of the first half, how it's supposed to end is, yeah, he goes, the Atreyu leaves the Southern Oracle. Okay, all right. So sorry, we got to go back to the Southern Oracle. So there's
Yep.
three gates in the book, and this
End of
one
the movie.
there's just two.
Well, so this is the Southern Oracle that
Yeah.
like yeah, there's not the was it the Hall of Doors? What was the
No,
third
the
gate?
Hall of like the Temple of Doors was how he got away from he got out of the desert of many
Yeah.
colors.
Yeah, you're right.
But like there was just the last gate. So they had the gates were the same in the first two, but the last gate was just a door.
Oh,
Just like
that's
in the middle of
right.
nowhere, but you couldn't have any purpose or like reason to go through the door.
Right.
So he had to literally forget who he was. So when he walked through with the image of Bastian in the attic in the magic mirror gate,
Yeah.
he
Hmm.
forgot who he was. And so then Atreyu was able just to walk up to the door and be like, huh, there's nothing on the other side. And then open the door and be like, oh, I guess I'll go in and walk in. And then
Right.
he's in like this temple that has all these
Right.
pillars and everything. And he keeps hearing this voice, but he can't find it. And it's because the Southern Oracle isn't a physical being, it's a song.
Right.
It's a voice. And but he could only ask it questions in the form of a song or in rhyme. He had to sing it, which I thought was really cool and interesting to give it just a little more of a personality. And like it's talked to other people before, but it even tells him, you're the last person that's ever going to talk to me or is ever going to sing to
Mhm.
me. No one else is ever going to hear me again because the nothing is here. And
Right.
explains to him, you have to get a human. And he's like, how do I get a human? Like to come. And it's sort of, I forget what it said. I should probably written it down. But like it had some sort of like poetic way of saying that, it's already here. He just has to believe or something.
Right.
And so anyways, then like the oracle disappears, the temple disappears, and Atreyu comes to like in the middle of nowhere and the gates are gone and nothing's left and Falkor comes and gets him and is like, oh, we didn't think you were ever gonna come back, we thought maybe you were gone. We started seeing things disappear, the nothing showed up, and so they're like, we were about to leave, and they were leaving anyways because now the oracle's gone. What's his
Right.
name? I forgot his name.
The little guy?
Yeah, the scientific elfie dude.
Yeah.
I
I don't
forgot his
remember.
name.
I should have written it down
Anyways,
though.
we will put it there. He's like, well, my work is over. I can't. There's no more Oracle. I can't publish a book about
Right.
something that's not there. Yeah, you can, but but that's not how he saw it. And so Falkor and Atreyu just fly off, and they're like, well, what do we do? Where do we go? Like, we can't find. They're supposed to try to find. Because they told me it has to go beyond. The Oracle told him he had to go beyond the borders of
The
Fantasia.
right, that the human world is beyond the borders of Fantasia.
But then they find
So,
that there is no borders. They're like, no
right.
matter where they fly, they can't find the borders. And they even, so instead of getting like knocked off of Falkor in the middle of the nothing, it was
Right.
like I guess
The four winds.
the four winds
Yeah.
from Fantasia were fighting and having a fight, whatever. And like
Yeah,
he
I didn't
goes
like that
into
part.
the storm to ask them where are the borders, because you guys are from everywhere, you would know. And they're like, there's no
Right.
borders.
Right.
And so he's like, well, how am I supposed to find this kid then? Like his whole mission is like, I feel for Atreyu. So this would be
Right.
the most frustrating quest ever.
They use two different words. Sometimes, so when Atreyu is talking, especially, he always used the term borders, but a lot, at least a couple of the other times when these other folks are talking about like the Oracle, they say boundaries.
Boundaries, yeah.
And that's a huge difference. And
Yeah. Okay.
Atreyu doesn't seem to catch that difference. And so he's thinking of a physical border.
Yeah, he's thinking he's gonna physically go to a place because that would make sense to him. That's what
Right,
makes sense within his world. He
right,
can't grasp the notion that he's inside a book, inside a fantasy world,
right.
and he doesn't
And
understand that concept.
yeah, the boundary of your understanding, the boundary of your
Yeah, so
realm.
beyond the boundaries of this. Yeah,
Right, yeah.
yeah.
And so that's and I think Bastian starts to like subconsciously register this when he starts to realize like, oh my gosh, this is speaking to me like
Oh,
personally
I'm a
somehow.
human child. I could tell them. And like he responds, at one point he yells and
Yeah.
a
When
reaction to
he
something, and
the giant
Atreyu,
spider.
yeah, so yeah,
Mhm.
in the movie, Atreyu was
Yeah,
talking to
Bastian
Morla, and then
yells.
something that Morla said made Bastian react where he yelled, and then Atreyu heard him, which doesn't make sense because that was what we're watching. We're like, that's weird. Why would he yell right then? There was nothing scary about what just happened. But when it was the spider in the canyon and Falkor and everything, that's terrifying.
Right.
And like, or and he was about to be bit by the spider. I don't know. Anyways, like the Atreyu was about to be bit or something. I don't know exactly what happened, but it was with the spider. That's terrifying.
Right.
That makes
And they
sense
all
for him
kind
to
of stop
scream.
and go like,
And
"What?"
he's
And
like,
he's
"Oh,
like,
did
"It
you hear
couldn't
that?"
have heard me."
And he's like, "Wait a second, that couldn't have heard me." But yeah.
Right.
Anyways, so yeah, so after they talk to the winds, he gets knocked off of Falkor, falls to the ground, and he loses Orin in that time, falls into the ocean, and then he stumbles into this city, like the city of ghouls or ghosts or whatever,
Yeah.
and like it was abandoned, or he saw some of them of the ghost people actually throw themselves into the nothing.
Right.
And like he started following them too, and then he realized, no, 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 I can't. And like he turns around and goes back to the city, and he goes into the city, realizes everybody's gone, and then he finds Gamork, the wolf, is like chained up in the backyard of one of these houses,
Yeah.
and
One thing that I love about him, well, I like that character. I really like that character, but he explains like that in the book at least he's not made of the from the nothing, like the nothing doesn't make him, but he is from yet another realm. Like
oh, okay,
because he says I don't remember exactly what he says, but he's like I'm not from this world, and he's like, "Oh, are you from the world of humans?" And he's like, "No." He's essentially like a world hopper kind of a thing. I
mm-hmm,
don't remember exactly how, but he says something about like the closest thing that you might understand is a werewolf, and Atreyu's like, I don't know what a werewolf is. He's like, okay, never mind. All you need to know is that I actually want the nothing to win. He's working with the nothing,
mm-hmm,
but now he's like trapped. Like there
yeah,
was like a witch that trapped him, and he's
yeah. So
like,
like the
now the
queen,
nothing's gonna get me.
yeah, like the ghost queen, like invited him in when he showed up, but because he didn't get Atreyu
Hmm.
because he couldn't he disappeared. He was gonna get him in the canyon with the spider, but then he disappeared when he like um made the
Wishes
wish.
away.
So he suddenly wished away, and then he couldn't follow his scent anymore because there's no scent, and
Right.
like he's following him by scent, right? And then so then he kept wandering until he got to this ghost city, and like the ghost queen, whatever, like welcomed him and made him feel special and everything and all that. And then she told her that he was working for the nothing, and so then she tricked him, and while he was sleeping, she chained him up, and it's like, yeah, I can't really let you go and stop Atreyu. This is my world too, but I'm kind of lost hope. I'm gonna go throw myself in the nothing with everybody else, but you're gonna stay here because you're not gonna get to leave, and so you will not have accomplished your mission and you will have failed. So she's kind of
Hmm.
like, ha. And then that's where Atreyu finds him, and not knowing what Gamork is, and then Gamork starts telling him, "Well, I was supposed to do this and blah blah blah," and then Atreyu realizes, like, you were looking for me. I'm Atreyu. And he's like, well, that's hilarious because now the nothing is here and we're both about to die. And like at the last minute, like as uh, Gamork bites on Atreyu's leg so he can't run away, which means that he can't throw himself into the nothing as it comes closer. But then Falkor like sees the Orin inside the ocean and to a great risk from himself, because in the book he explained that the luck dragons are like fire. They're like
Hmm.
pure fire or something. So
Light,
going into
yeah.
the water, he could have died. It could have like extinguished him, but he took the risk because he knew it was Orin that he was seeing. So he went down there, he got it, and brought it up, and then he's kept going until I don't know how he figured out where Atreyu was, but he got there just in time to catch him and take him away before the nothing got him.
Right.
I was like, oh, okay. And then after that, it's like, okay, what do we do now? And he's like, well, they just keep flying or whatever. And then they realize they're heading back to the ivory tower. They're like, okay, well, and then everything else has disappeared, essentially, but the ivory tower, everything else is like floating in space. So all of Fantasia is pretty much gone, but them and the Childlike Empress. And so they go there and they're like, I'm sorry, I failed. I didn't bring the human child. And she's like, no, you did. You brought him with you. And he's like, what? And he's like, oh, he's been with you for this whole time and blah, 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 blah. In the book, he goes there and she tells him, Atreyu goes there to the Empress and she tells him that he found the person, but that he's not showing himself because
Hmm.
he's not convinced yet. So then
Right.
she's like, oh, it's okay. I'll take care of it. And then she goes, like, so I guess in the book, the world wasn't completely gone yet. She
Right.
goes with like her invisible servants or whatever, and they carry her into like the depths of like the highest mountain to find
Right.
the Nan of the mountain, whatever,
Yeah. He's like
who keeps
writing
the
their story.
history of
Yeah.
Fantasia. And because she's the beginning and he's the end, they're not supposed to ever meet, or she'll
Hmm.
be trapped there and like everything will come obsolete anyways.
Yeah. Well, and that's where she demands, she's like, I need to know. You need to tell me from the beginning. And he's like, we'll get stuck in a time loop, basically. But she's
Yeah,
like, do it. What else? What have we got to lose?
there's nothing else to do. So go ahead.
And so they do. Oh, that was really difficult to read, by the way. That was a slog to get through the um repeating portions of the story over and over
Hmm.
and over again. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I wanted to be like, "Dang it, Bastian, can you just understand so we can stop this?"
Stop it already. You're gonna be stuck in this. Yeah. So like she has the man who keeps the history read the story from the beginning, but it's the story we've been reading. And so the Bastion's like, wait a second, this is my story. I'm in the
Hmm.
book. Like this is really me. They're really talking to me. And so in order to stop the loop and to not lose his own mind, because he's stuck in there reading it, he has to go, okay, I'll come. I'll come. I'll give you a name. And then so he gives her a name, and suddenly he appears there with the childlike empress in this blackness, and it's just the two of them. And he'd given her a name, and she's like, "You gave me a name. You did what you need to do." It's like, "But where's Fantasia?" It's like, "Oh, it's all gone." But this is the last little sand of it. This is all that's left, and like I'm giving you. She gives him Orin and says, "Okay, make as many wishes as you want. Whatever you wish, you recreate Fantasia however you want."
Hmm.
Okay, and that's essentially where the end of the movie is
Right.
instead of
That's part
going
one.
to the guy in the mountain, she speaks through to the screen, like she's speaking to Bastian, and says, Bastian, why don't you help us? Bastian, say my
Hmm.
name. And like, so he has to finally go, okay, I will do
Here.
my dream. I will do it. And then he goes up to the window all dramatically. We're like my sons were like, just say it right there. You don't have to go to the window. Just say
Right.
it in the book. They're like, well, gotta be dramatic about it. Like, okay. And there's a big storm outside of the attic and everything. And so he goes to the window and screams, Moonchild or whatever. And then in the movie, like the whole thing happens like for in blackness with the Moonchild, and she's like,
Hmm.
make any wish you want. And then his wish, he sits there and thinks, and the next thing you know, he's riding on Falkor. Falkor? Was
Yeah,
it
Falkor. Yeah.
Falkor? My gosh. He's riding on Falkor and he's seeing that all Fantasia is back. So he wished to ride on Falkor and make everything come back. And then the next wish apparently he makes is to go chase down the bullies back in New York in his world and make them throw themselves in the trash out of fear of the dragon. And
Right.
that's the end of the movie
Right.
because they decided that's how it would work. And you pointed out, and I didn't catch this until you pointed it out, that goes against the entire logic of the story that they literally can't cross over.
Right.
So, excellent point. But in the second part is essentially him creating Fantasia in
Right.
his own way.
Yeah, part two starts immediately after the this is the last grain of sand, and she says something about you've already made your first wish. And then when he sees himself, he looks different and he feels different and he's like suddenly like courageous or whatever. He has wished himself into being
The person he wants to be.
better, right? The person he thinks he wants to be. And
Yeah.
so that was actually his first wish in the book, and then part two starts immediately with him creating this world and
Like, yeah, so the Night Forest, which I thought was very cool. And I would love to have seen somebody translate that to film. That would have
mm-hmm.
been epically neat. Very
Yep.
cool. And then he spends like some time in the Night Forest, this phosphorescent, glow in the dark forest that just
Mm-hmm.
pops up and everything. And then he's like, well, I want a bigger challenge. I want to face some dangerous monster, some dangerous thing. And the next thing you know, the forest disappears and turns into this many-colored desert, and then this big lion that's like many colors shows up, and it can talk, and his name is Gorgamon or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
The many-colored death is the lion, and like he doesn't turn to ash when he's with the lion, which is what's supposed to happen to everybody that's in front of him. Because he has Orin, he's able to be in front of him, and he's able to like befriend the lion, and he takes him to his palace, and he gives him the sword that like the sword is supposed to be. He's been here all this time and was supposed to be for the one person that it could be in my presence and not turn to ash. So this is your
Right.
sword. In order for it to be yours, so you have to give it a name. We'll put the name right there. But like he names the sword, and then now he has control over the sword, but it can't be used in like anger. It can only be used when he's actually in danger, and the sword has to fly into his hand out of the sheath.
It chooses when he can use it. Yeah.
It chooses when he needs to be used. If he ever tries to take it out by force, it'll lose its power and stop
Mm-hmm.
being magical and, consequences.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Something that I really like, they do it a little bit in part one. I guess
uh-huh,
the author, is a single person. But it happens a little bit in part one, like when the little people, the little scientist and healer lady, and
mhm,
then there's a couple other points when he says, they went on to actually be quite successful. But that's another
another
story to be
story.
told another time. In part two, that's like at least once in every chapter.
Yeah, he did it a lot in part two. Part
Yeah,
one, they did it a few times. I was like, okay, but are we going to see the story? Or is that just your fancy way of
right.
saying there's more that's going to happen? But
Right. And it kind of opens it up to the concept that like because it's the never-ending story, like of course all these stories keep going. And also maybe you can write part of the next story and
yeah, like
maybe
you can
this
decide what
character,
happens.
yeah,
And
this character spoke to you more, so you write this. That character spoke to me more. I'm interested in that story, so I'll make that, like
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
is how it felt. Whether or not that's what he meant or not, that's kind of how it felt like it was like because in some cases he'll tell you like oh yeah, so he goes on to do this and this is how it turns out, but that's another story. And
yeah.
other times he's like they had many adventures, but that's another story.
After the many colored death lion hanging out thing, he tells them about the Temple of Many Doors and that it'll show up when you have like a need for it and any door can turn into it. And then once you're in, it'll like eventually take you where you need to go, but you have to know where you want to go.
Right.
And anyway, so like it eventually opens up to him. He goes in and then he has to keep making choices, and each like landing he goes to, there's different doors made of different things, but they have one thing in common. And like at first he realizes he's not getting anywhere because he doesn't know what he wants. Then he goes, well,
Right.
I want to see Atreyu. I want companionship. I want to see Atreyu again. So like I want to actually meet him in person. So then eventually he gets taken through all these doorways, and it comes out of like a random chapel in the middle of the forest, and he comes out and into the regular world of regular Fantasia. And
Right.
then he starts walking, and then he runs into these four knights and this lady who are on their way to this tournament, to this big thing that's happening in Silver City for all these, this quest is being put together to go and find the savior that had saved Fantasia. Everyone knows he's there, but they don't know where he's at or what he looks like, except for Atreyu. And Atreyu and Falkor are going to go and find him and help him find his way back home. Because
Right.
part of the thing is he's supposed to come fix this world, but then go home and fix his world too.
Right.
And that's
Yeah,
part of the
and
whole thing, what they're supposed to do.
they're supposed to be like they keep calling it the bodyguards. We need to be his bodyguards or whatever. But
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
they're
gonna
supposed
help
to
him
go
get
on
there.
this. They're supposed to go on this adventure with him to get him back home. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, and so all these so when Bastian meets these knights and this lady, he doesn't tell them who he is,
Hmm.
but he's like, "Oh, I'll go with you," and he goes with them. And one of the things he explains like right away is that it was obvious this one knight was in love with the lady and like totally obsessed with her, and he wanted to be the best of the best, and
Right. Which I think
because
is
she
kind of
wanted the best of the best knight, she'd only marry the knight that was the best.
right. I don't remember if he actually used the word in love with. I feel like he did, or we got that impression because he's infatuated with, he's
He was
enamored by,
clearly
whatever.
like smitten or besotted or something
Right.
like that.
But later it says that no one in Fantastica is capable of loving. And I'm
Uh,
like, what about that guy?
what about that guy? That guy was
But
obsessed.
but this is what I'm talking about. Where well, we can get to it later, but in the but that's another story for another time.
hmm
Like he actually talks about how that love went. So
Yeah,
anyway,
so eventually, yeah. So that's okay, another part of the story is so they go to do the whole tournament thing,
tournament. Yeah,
and that one night beats everybody else, and then Bastion decides to like challenge him, and because of all the things that he has wished for and he's learned and gained all this ability through his time in the Night Forest and the many-colored desert, he's become really good at all this stuff, and he's now has all this skill, and he has a ward. So like he beats the knight, and the knight's all discouraged and like so depressed. And that's when Atreyu realizes who he is. He's like, "You look different." It's like, "What are you talking about? I look different." Because when he wished to be better, to look better, to be stronger, he lost the memory that he'd ever been a chubby, fat little kid.
right,
That's gone. He doesn't remember that. So he doesn't understand what Atreyu was saying when he's saying, "You look different than you looked in the magic mirror gate." And he's like, "Oh, I've always looked like
right.
this."
And I
And
like
that's
that
when
they
it starts
mentioned
to, Atreyu starts realizing over time that he's losing memories every time he makes a wish.
right. And I like that they mention, I think it's Falkor that mentions it, but somebody mentions that like the reason that Bastian is not so put out at losing all these memories is because once you've forgotten, you don't realize what you've lost.
You
Like,
don't know what you've lost. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And it didn't affect Atreyu because he's part of Fantasia. So
right,
it doesn't affect him the way a human isn't of this world, though there's a cost for him. So I remember Ethan saying, like, when we were watching the first movie, he's like, you can't give a kid that kind of power, like 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid, that kind of power, like endless wishes and he can do whatever he wants. So that's crazy. I'm like, well, really, in the book, it's not, because there is a consequence. He loses his memories of home.
right.
And he's not
Every
realizing it's
magic,
happening until Atreyu notices and then tries to convince him this is a bad thing.
right. I appreciate that like the world over in every culture, in every story, whether it's like high fantasy, whether it's European or Asian or whatever, like we all agree, even though magic looks different literally everywhere, everyone in our entire world agrees that magic always comes with a cost.
Have to have a
I
consequence.
I love that.
Yes, like it's supposed to be that way. There's supposed to be a consequence and a cause and effect, and that's what keeps things logical and makes things fair and makes things relatable within
Yeah,
stories. So yeah, I love that that ended up being the thing. Oh, he's losing memories. He doesn't
right,
realize it. And so like the longer he's there, the more wishes he makes, the more likely it is he's not going to make it back. And
right,
so, but he's supposed to go back, and Atreyu knows that. That's part of the whole thing. The humans are supposed to go there, come there, help them, same Fantasia, and then go back to their world and help fix their world. That's part of like the how this the cycle goes. That's
right,
what the Childlike Empress told him, or Moonchild told him. So, anyways, so before he leaves with Atreyu to go try to find and Falkor to go find his way home, um, the other knights go and tell him, "Hey, so you kind of ruined our friend's life. He was gonna marry the girl, and it was his opportunity to prove that he was a perfect knight. And then since you beat him, he's now lost all purpose. And meaning, can you do anything to help him?" And this is after like the whole library thing was revealed, and like so they
right,
can see that he can create these amazing things. So he goes to meet him and tells him, "Hey, so first he's like, go, could you love another woman? I mean, there's other girls in this world, right?" And he's like, "No, no, I only want her because she wants the best. And I want to be the best." And he's like, "Okay." And so then he's like, "Well, it just so happens that she just got kidnapped by this
Right.
dragon, Smurg. And he starts making up this dragon. And like every 100 years, he kidnaps a random maiden to take to his castle to keep house for him. And he explains what like his house is like, or like his castle and his kingdom, and like how it's like he's an ice dragon, for it's like he has ice fire, and is like she needs you to save him, to save her. Like she needs you desperately. You need to go and help her. And then he's like, really? How do you know this is true? And then the next thing you know, everybody outside's like, oh, the dragon caught a woman. And then it's like, it's her. And so then he goes off. Then that's his quest. He's going to go off and save her. But in the book, they're like, oh, he did eventually go and save her from the thing. But at that point, she was ready to marry him. He no longer wanted her.
Right.
But that's another story. And I was like,
But that's
ha ha, ha ha.
yeah.
And I kind of wanted to see that story. I wanted to
Right.
understand why. I'm like, that is a great setup. Like, how do
Right.
you go, wait a second. This girl's super shallow. She only cared if I did this and that. She doesn't understand about love. And then he's like, well, I understand about love. Like, wait a second. Anyways,
Right.
yeah, that's an
And
interesting
that's
concept.
what I'm
I like that
talking
idea.
about. Like so that was really interesting to me too. I kind of wanted to get lost on that tangent
I'm
a
like,
little
can
bit.
we come back to it in this book?
Right. Well, and
No.
that's just the thing is he's like, "Hey, I gave you the prompt. Now you tell maybe this is your never-ending story."
Yeah, yeah,
Like
exactly. And
yeah.
that's really cool from like that perspective. But that's his like his purpose and intent. That's very cool.
Which
Very neat.
that was my head canon. My head canon of the evening is I'm pretty sure that that's what the intent was. Now
The intent
you
was for
go
everybody to go off and make their own
and tell your
worlds.
story.
Yeah.
Right.
And I like that. That's cool. So yeah, he does that several times within the book, but it's constantly in the second half, as you were
Yes.
saying. And then, so then after they leave and they start on their thing, whatever, he starts, well, first off, he starts thinking, well, wait, I just released a dragon into this world. Because other than luck dragons, there hadn't been dragons, fire breathing dragons in this world. So then he's like, oh, I hope I didn't just cause a huge problem. I hope it's going to be okay, right? And he's like, all right. And then there's a couple other things that happen where he makes a wish to make something better, and then wonders about the consequence of it. Like, was that the right thing to do? And is that going to make things worse here? And then as they're traveling, Atreyu starts to realize that they're not really getting anywhere because Bastian doesn't really want to go home. He likes
Mhm.
it here. He's starting to forget home. And at the same time, all these people start showing up around, all these Fantasticans started showing up saying, hey, we heard about what you did in Silver City and you gave them a history, you gave them a story. We want you to come to our place and tell us our history and our story. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I would be like, yeah, that itself is a cool concept. And him going from place to place and giving people their background and their
Right.
stories and all the cool things that could happen with that. Sort of like
Right.
Quantum Leap, but with stories
Right. Well,
in
and
fantasy world.
especially to I mean, he's a like I said, he's like a fifth or sixth grade boy who has a kind of detached, troubled relationship with his dad and kind of no one else, right?
Yeah.
And here is this world of people that he not only has like pretty much godlike power among, but also they seem to cherish him.
Yeah, they
They
respect what he can do because nobody here can do what he can do. Like
right.
he's special. The thing that made
And
him like picked on at home is what makes him unique here.
right. And see, like I think about like from my perspective right now, I used to love the idea of like the pulled out of time, oh, I woke up and I'm randomly back in some other time. I used to think that was so cool,
Mm-hmm.
kind of Outlander, or is it Outlander?
Kind of like Outlander, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind
Like
of like
time
that
travel
kind of
sort of.
thing. Yeah, like I used to think that was such a cool concept, I would love that. And now I would hate that because now I have a family that I want to be present for. And I have not that I didn't love my family. I love my siblings. I loved my parents.
Yeah, it's
However,
different as a parent.
right, I was in the like breaking out, going on my own, having my own adventure. This is my adventure now. And so, from
You're
my
responsible
perspective,
for people now.
yeah, I would be like, as soon as I realized I was losing my memories, I would be like, okay, stop, hold up. How do I get out of here? Like, as soon as they were like, you can make all the wishes you want, I'd be like, all right, put Fantasia back to how it was before the nothing messed up. Next wish, I want to wish myself out of here. Like
Yeah.
that's what I think of now. Like fix the problem, wish myself home. Because if I can wish for
Hmm.
anything, I'm wishing to go home, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to come back to my kids and whatever
Yeah, you
and
still got
make
to
their
come back
world
to you.
better.
Where Bastian doesn't feel
Bastian
like he
doesn't
does.
have that. He
No.
all like his first wish was to make himself cool,
Yeah.
you know, to
Hmm.
make himself a Fantastican as much as he
He could
could,
be. Yeah.
you
To
know.
be the best
And
version of
so
himself the way he thought he needed to be.
yeah, so as he's going along and like those little whatever the little gross worm things are that like are making the silver for the
Yeah,
Silver
yeah.
City
The
or whatever.
acrids or whatever.
Yeah, and like the thing is when I heard their story, when he made this beautiful story for the backstory for them that they cried the lake of tears. It's
Hmm.
so salty that whatever because it's full of their tears. They just
Hmm.
cry every night, and then they spin all this. They like melt the ground around them essentially,
Yeah,
and
like
like
this
they pull
this
out the silver.
amazing like
Yeah, they
strong
make this
metal that can withstand
beautiful.
the tears, the acid.
Yeah, and like that was so beautiful. And they even say, let us make you this beautiful city so that our sorrow at being so ugly can create something beautiful. People will never see us ever because
We'll
we
see
don't
this
want
beautiful
them
thing we
to,
made.
but they will know the beauty that we've put in the world. And he gave them that story. And I'm like, that's so beautiful. And so then to be like, "Oh, you poor things, I'm gonna make you beautiful and laughing and
They're
happy
like, why are
all
we so ugly? And yeah, but then it sounds like what he made them sounded uglier
right."
than what they
Yeah.
were. They were like
'Cause-
all these weird, crazy things, and they were
yeah,
unserious, and they had no purpose now. And there were these weird butterfly clown things, and I was like, oh, that sounds hideous.
right. It
Take
was
me
the
back
whole
to the
concept
weird
of
worm things they were.
but it was the whole concept of he's stepping on a dollar to pick up a dime, right?
Yeah,
Like the dime is like shiny and in the moment you're like, "Ooh," and you want to pick it up. But you stepped on a dollar to get a dime. You know what I
yeah. It's
mean?
like you're
Like
not getting the thing of real worth here.
right. And he took this beautiful, and he realizes almost immediately when they destroy the
The
artifice or
tower
whatever that
thing
they
that
were
they had
creating.
made, yeah.
Yeah. And they're destroying it. And he's like, why? Why would you do that? This was your beauty, you know? And they're like, you made us fools, and fools do stupid stuff. So,
We don't care.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, things like that, that you're like, yeah, consider the long-term effects of what you are doing. Are you
Mhm.
wanting the thing that looks good right now, or are you wanting the thing of most value? Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm. And
So yeah,
that's a deep concept. So like the second half of the book I feel like has a lot more meaning and a lot more depth than the
yes,
first half. And I feel like that's partially because they're trying to lure Bastion there. And Bastion's still somewhat innocent and naive. But he gets there and then he's in the world. He now
right,
has to like learn his lesson. He has to have consequences. He's losing memories. He
yeah,
has to start making real choices. And so he starts growing up. And so
yes.
then all these people start showing up, wanting to follow him. And he's like, okay, fine. I'll go and I'll
Well,
help you. I'll tell your stories, but I gotta go see the Childlike Empress first because he's
right,
like, I'm not sure I want to go home. And I feel like I need to talk to her. She's the only one who can help me figure out what I need to do. And then Atreyu was like, well, nobody can see the Childlike Empress more than once. You can't see her again. It's like, well, maybe for you, but I'm a human, so maybe it's different for me. So
right,
he starts making his way there. And as he's going, Atreyu and Falkor are realizing that he's losing his memories, and they're trying to be like, "Hey, you need to stop." But more and
right.
more people keep following them, and to the point where he has like this huge following, like his own army of people. And he gets tired of Atreyu and Falkor treat him like a child, and he's
Well,
be
first,
baby.
doesn't he meet the witch first, like
No,
before he?
that's what he wishes for a challenge where he
Oh,
can like show them that he doesn't need to be rescued, that
you're
he's
right. Yeah,
fearsome and like that he can be terrifying or
he can
whatever.
do it. Yeah,
Like he's the hero. He doesn't need to be saved. And so then suddenly the witch shows up in the hand-like castle who
yeah.
has all these metal monster giant things that are attacking the people around. And they attack their camp while Bastion's riding Falkor somewhere. And when he comes back, they kidnapped the three knights that he were like his main dudes
Mm-hmm.
and taken them hostage, and that she was demanding that he surrender himself, Bastion, to her and be her slave, or she was gonna kill the knights,
Right.
right? And so he comes up with this whole plan that make everybody disperse, look like they gave up, and then he and Atreyu would sneak in, and they would save them. And so that way he could be the hero, and it would also, sort of distract her. She thinks that he's not coming. And then so he goes in. Atreyu sort of distracts him in the front of the castle with Falkor or whatever, and then Bastian sneaks in, gets in there, saves the knights, whatever, and they stop all the metal giants, whatever. They break in, they capture Zaid, and she's like, "Oh no, you caught me! You've overcome all my army, whatever. You're so
Right.
magnanimous or whatever." And she like gives up really easily. And she's like, all I ask is that, you let me serve you and to make up for what I've done or whatever. And like right away, Atreyu and Falkor were like, nope, like
Right.
kill her, get rid of her, imprison her. She's not bringing her
Yeah.
with us. And
Well,
he's
and
like,
Falkor says the same thing when he's like, "We can ride Falkor," and he's like, "No, she's not coming near me."
I'm not carrying her. And she's like, oh, well, I have my own little mechanical,
hmm
like
Minion.
fancy
Yeah.
litter wagon thing, whatever,
Yeah.
carriage. And so then she rides in that along with the rest of the party that follows him, and he keeps going towards like the ivory tower. But apparently there's like no one set way to the ivory tower. It's just
Right.
like it shows up
Well,
where it's supposed to show up.
right. Yeah, it's kind of like the concept of there is no border of Fantasia, but there is a boundary to Fantasia. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of like the same with the Ivory Tower. Like they even describe in the first part that no one actually wills themselves into the Ivory Tower. The what is it?
Or
The
Magnolia,
Lotus
like the top
or
thing that only
Magnolia.
the
Yeah.
Childlike
Like
Empress has to will you in.
right, like the people that get there can't really answer how they got there, but she has willed them in. Like, you know,
She allowed it, yeah.
and it's kind of the same thing with the Ivory Tower. It almost seems like they say something. I don't know if it's in the movie or in the book or both, but where they're like it's either as near or as far as
You want
your imagination or something like that. Like they don't say
as you need
imagination.
it to be. So because
Right.
he was like going through a process of learning things, whatever, and
Yeah, and he didn't really want to go. Like,
he did, but he also didn't. He wanted to prolong his journey because
right.
he didn't want her to tell him, "Hey, you go home."
It made me think of in the Pirates of the Caribbean, the compass that Jack Sparrow has that
Oh yeah.
always points
Mm-hmm.
the direction of what he wants. And when he doesn't really know what he wants, then it just kind of like
Goes everywhere.
spins. Yeah. And that's kind of what I got out of
Like the Leahona,
right,
right,
like
of
the
Mormon
Leona.
mythology or scripture.
But but yeah, like he was kind of like, yeah, of course I want to go there. Half of his heart wants to go
Kind of,
there,
yeah. Yeah.
you know?
So
And
then
so,
during this time, Zaid has the opportunity to sort of manipulate him and
right.
turning him against Atreyu because Atreyu is trying to say, hey, you need to stop making wishes because you're losing your memories. You can't lose your memories. You lose your memories, you can't go home. And he's
Yep.
like, well, what if I don't want to go home? And then like Zaid gives him this invisible belt thing that helps him. And he goes, she warns him that Atreyu is going to steal the Orn from him by force or whatever. And so
hmm
then he gets the belt. He was invisible and overhears them talking about this. This is the first part of the conversation, of course, where they're like, "Oh, it's for his own good, and he's my friend, whatever." He just hears the part where they're gonna steal
Right. Well, and
the
he
thing.
misses the last part of the conversation when Falcor's like, "Listen, he's your friend. You should be a friend to him. Warn him of what's going on." Like he missed all of the context.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so he just hears the end part, where it's like, "Yeah, they are plotting against me," and so then he sets a trap for them, and they get caught by the Iron Giants that Zaid has left, and then instead of like he like publicly shames them in front of the whole like army of people that are following him, and then he banishes them. They have to leave, and so then they leave, and then after that they come to like the maze outside of the ivory tower. And they're like, there it is, and so they show up there, and like he sends messengers in to tell the childlike empress Moonchild that he's there and he wants to see her, and then they come back and say she's not here. they're saying that she hasn't been here for a long time. Everyone in the city is saying she's not here and they don't know when she's coming back. And then
Hmm.
Zaya starts telling him, okay, well, maybe we'll just go in anyways. We'll go wait there. And so he goes in, everybody's like, yay, the savior. And they're all like acting like he's this big hero and they're all excited about him being there. And he gets there and like she starts telling him, hey, maybe she left you the Orin. Maybe she wanted you to become her successor. Maybe you're supposed to become the next emperor. And he's
Right.
like, huh, maybe I am. And because he doesn't have Atreyu around and he's sort of feeling like horrible about like sending Atreyu and Falkor away, he sent his
Hmm.
main actual friends away. He's feeling kind of guilty. And like the long as they're there, like he notices, they even say like the knights that were all heroic and good because they have nothing to do and they're sitting around waiting for the emperors to show up. They started being like really bad. They started being like, well, we don't have anything
Drunken,
to do. They started being drunken and chasing women around and like we don't have anything
getting
to do. What do you
fights.
expect us to do? I'm like, what a stupid like
Right.
freaking meathead
Because
medieval
remember how
man
they were
logic.
asking for a backstory, and he's like, "Yeah, I will, but first I will need to see the Childlike Empress." So they don't have a backstory, so they don't have a purpose. Literally, they exist as
Yeah.
knights, and if they're not knighting, then
And what do they do? So yeah,
yeah,
I love that their logic as well. We're doing bad things because we don't have anything to do. But it's like, okay, yeah, they're Fantasians, so they don't have the same logic. But it's like, it's his fault that you're horrible. What?
right,
Yeah. Anyways, so then he decides he's like, fine. I'll be the emperor. I'll make myself emperor, and he tries to break into the Magnolia, like throne
throne
room
room. Hmm.
where like the child where Moonchild lives, but he can't get into it. No matter what he does, no wish will get him in there. Like no amount of like craftsmen trying to build him stairs or carve into it, he can't get in. And so then he just decides, okay, I'll just make my own throne. And Zaid like sets it all up. They start this whole planning this whole coronation, and they send invitations to everybody, and everyone has to come and like do a big procession and announce and pronounce him their emperor to
Yeah,
make it official. And so while they're doing that, they get word that Atreyu and Falkor have gathered an army and are on their way there to stop him to stop him from making himself emperor and to force him to give up Orin.
right.
And he's like, how dare he? And he's like, how dare I do that? And so then they send out Zaid's like suddenly she has all these giant metal monster things when she only had like six left that were carrying her thing, and now suddenly they're the whole army. It's like okay, and
Yeah,
so then they go out to fight, and his people go out to fight. They're like, oh, we'll fight for you because they believe in him because he's a savior. So they go
right.
out and they're all dying and fighting, and they destroyed the maze going into the castle and to the ivory tower, and all this stuff's happening. And finally, like Atreyu shows up at the palace, and Bastian's like so mad that he's there, and he just wants to take his thing, and he wants it for himself. And so like he forces the sword out
Hmm.
and uses it, and like he can't control what he does at that point. So he ends up wounding Atreyu rather mortally. Like he's like, I think I killed him, and
Right.
like he falls and gets hurt, and then Falkor takes him away. And then, but he's like, that can't be the end of it. I have to kill him. I have to stop him. And so he gets on a horse and just rides off, and nobody can catch him, but they're all trying to chase after him. All the his army and Zaid are trying to follow him to
Well,
go
most of them are
pursue.
dead. How
Yeah,
did
a lot
most
of
of
them
them
died.
die?
Those that
Yeah,
could follow did or tried,
right.
including Zaid, but they couldn't catch up to him because he was so fast. And then he doesn't find him. Eventually, what he finds is this
Well,
city
yeah. So he's on a mechanical horse
with a
because
mechanical horse. That's right, a mechanical
the
horse.
mechanical giants, some of
Yeah,
them have mechanical horses, and so he grabbed one of those. He's riding that out, and he literally rides it until it falls apart,
yeah.
and that's when he finds the city. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
I've been
Which
telling the whole thing. You want to talk about the city real quick?
okay. So the city actually was one of the more interesting parts to me, I thought, because they had talked about how other humans, other people from our world, had been there before, and you kind of already get kind of the inkling that Mr. Coriander from the bookshop,
Might
that
have
he was
been there,
probably
yeah.
one of those. And so you're like, oh, so obviously they can make it home because he did. But you get to the city, and like the people are like dumb, like they're like wearing stuff, but it like makes no sense. They have um like lamp shades or like pots or whatever for hats, and they're like wearing like towels wrapped around them or like pieces of like plants and stuff just like on them randomly, and he's like, what the heck? And they're all like busy, but none of them seem to make any sense what they're doing. And so even when he's like, "Hey, bro, what are you doing?" Or he
Yeah.
sees somebody like put down a cart. I think he asks them a question, and the guy kind of stares at him and is like, "Oh," and just goes off and randomly does something else. And somebody
Leaves the
else
start.
starts pushing his
Yeah.
cart, and he's like, is this your cart?" And she's like, "Oh," and like just nobody has any sense, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
he sees it's like a monkey,
Yeah. A
um,
talking monkey.
yeah, talking monkey, and he's like, "Hey, I keep this place. I keep these guys. And he explains to him that these are the past emperors. These are the other humans who, like him, forgot so much that they thought that they now had the power. They had essentially decided that they were now the emperors. And as soon as they were coronated, as soon as they were made
Or they
emperor or
try to make
empress,
themselves emperor.
right? As soon as they thought that they had succeeded and went through with the coronation, they break.
Yeah, they
They
lost
are
all memories and then
they
they lost all sense of who they were.
yeah, their final wish is gone and they are trapped here and they have no memories and so they no longer have sense. And so he like tries the monkey like puts out like there's like blocks that have letters so that they can like play with it and eventually they form a word, but they don't remember the purpose of the word and so they just destroy it, but it like gives
Gives them
them
something to
something to
do.
do, you
Yeah.
know? And so he's basically taking care of all of these like mentally insane people.
Hmm.
And Bastian's like, "So wait, so I'm supposed to be one of these people?" And he's like, "I mean, you're
You're almost
here,
there.
aren't you?" Like,
You did try to make yourself emperor. You're
didn't you
almost
come
lost
from your
everything.
coronation? And his whole thing was that like he didn't actually get to have his coronation
Yeah. And
because
he
of the
still had
war.
some of his memories left. So he's like, if you're not careful, I'll see you right back here.
Yeah, and he's like, "I'm pretty sure you're down to about three, maybe four wishes, and then welcome home, buddy." You
Yeah,
know,
I'll be seeing you soon.
I thought that was super interesting because we'd heard all this time that other humans used to come here all the time,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
you're like,
But
so
where are
so
they?
then how are none of them able to help him or whatever? Here's why, because either they made it home or they're here.
And
The
they don't know who they are, so they're useless to everybody.
Right. I thought that was actually one of the more interesting parts of his journey in the second half, I thought.
That if he's not careful, he's gonna be stuck here. But he's gonna
Right.
be stuck like that, not as an emperor, not as some like great savior, but as this wandering idiot.
Right. Yep.
And he'll never go home and he'll never know what the heck he's doing. So then
Right.
what happens?
So I actually really like I think this is the point where they mention Zaid's
Yeah, so
end.
Zaid finally gets there.
Oh my gosh. So I love the fact that she like kind of like is just gone. Like her monsters, her mechanical monsters, they end up turning on her, not even turning on her.
They
She ends up she can't control them anymore and they trample her
they
and
trample
she's
her,
just kind
yeah.
of gone.
But
And
she
it
can't
was
control
just
him anymore because she doesn't have her whole plan is gone now
right.
that Bastion's
Her
gone. Then her will is no longer strong enough to control them.
Well, and she gave them to him essentially. That
Oh yeah.
she had said back when she was trying to like manipulate him and convince you control me, so you can will then these guys. And so he's no longer thinking about it. He no longer maybe even is capable of it at this point.
Hmm.
And she has lost her purpose, the purpose behind controlling them in the first place and so, yeah, I love that. I love that, like, ultimately, her death was not known like, it was no, like, glorious, like,
Yeah.
you know, she just got trampled by her own monsters.
By her own creation. Yeah.
Done.
Her
You know?
her all conniving end up doing her absolute no good. He leaves the city, but then he's wishing to like go back to being like a child and going back to being
Oh, right.
nurtured.
And
And
he meets what's her name?
I
He goes
forget. I'm so bad. I just recently read this too. Gonna be there or
So
there.
he finds this beautiful
House of
field
Change.
of roses,
Yeah.
and there's a sign. It's like looks like an actual hand carved out of wood that says the House of Change. And when he goes there, I don't remember her name, but there's this like lovely woman, and he immediately wants to just call her mama and be like, "Mommy," you know. And he's like, "Oh, but that doesn't make any sense because she's clearly not my mother."
Mm-hmm.
And she's got this dress that like is like crazy. It almost looks like it's made of real flowers and leaves, and her hat like has fruit on it, you know. And he's like, "This is so wild," but the house is like physically changing, and at the same time, as he goes in there, like she is just like, "Oh, yay, here you are." And so she's like proffering him like fruit, and "Oh, would you like to and at one point he's like, "Aren't you going to eat with me? This is weird." And she's like, "I will, but it's gonna weird you out a little bit." Like, I don't remember how she says it. She's like, "Please don't be disturbed by how I eat." She picks up a watering can and she like pours the water over herself. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, "The heck?" But then it turns out that this fruit that he's been eating, like it actually comes from like she like picks it out, and he's like, "Oh, you keep actual fruit on your hat?" And she's like, "What hat?" Like she just is abundance. Like she just like
Yeah, she's like a tree. She's
produces.
growing that fruit.
Right. And she says that she's been waiting for him all of her life, and so was her mother and her grandmother. They've always wanted to, and she says something about she's always wanted to have a child, and so have they, but unfortunately they never were able to. He's like, wait a minute, but you just said mother and grandmother, so obviously your grandmother had a child, your mom, she had a child, you. And she explains that no, actually eventually I grow old, and then I like they produce a fruit that is the next their
Makes
next
a
incarnation.
a new tree, but not like a child, and so they get to raise a child. It's
Right.
a new tree is born out of them, but they
Right.
don't get
Because
to
that's
mother it.
essentially blossoms or fruit or nuts or whatever. Like that's what it is. That's their offspring, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
next generation. And so when he realizes that, he's almost like, "Oh crap, I've been eating all this fruit." And she's like, "No, please, I want you to." So he says something about like, "Oh, but I'm not a baby. I'm not like a little child." And she's like, "Haha." And so she takes him into the dining room, which has changed. It's a house of change, so it's changed into like this like overly large dining room. And he's like, "Oh, this wasn't here before." Okay. And he has to like climb up into the chair, and he's like a little child in this room. And she even like she like when he gets tired or whatever, she like carries him to bed and puts him in this like crib, and he's looking at himself and he's like, "Hey, I'm still me, but the fantastic in me, right? So everything here is just bigger to make me appear like to make me seem like the child. Like this is weird."
Mm-hmm.
However, he also kind of loves it because his wish, whether he had realized it or not, is to be loved. And she's actually the one that explains to him that I can nurture, I can adore, I can um desire to care for you, but Fantasticans can't love.
Hmm.
And because they're not humans, that's a
Yeah, they don't have that
human
emotion.
quality that they just lack. And so eventually this like he seems to spend a long time there. Like he says that he goes out for days and days and possibly even months, that he'll explore the house, and because it's the house of change, it's always different, so it's always fun and exciting, like a child. Well, and she sings him to sleep, and like she gets to treat him like her child. He'll
Mm-hmm.
go out and he'll play in the field roundabout, but he never goes too far
He starts
because
wanting
he
her food
wants
again.
this. Like
Yeah.
he does want her nurture. Like the fruit, like is like like the fruit of her nurturing, right? Is like
Mm-hmm.
just so decadent to him that he has to have more. He desires this until eventually it still rings a little hollow, and he realizes, I do want love.
But I also want to able to love someone back. I wanted
Right.
the
I
ability
also
to
want
love.
to love someone else.
And
And
once he realizes what his last wish is, she's like, "Oh, now you have to go."
right. She's like, "Hey, you've grown." Kind of like how I was talking about like when I was a teenager and I was like, "That would be so cool to go back in time," because I was in the like branching out phase. Like she's like, "Okay, you've gone through this second childhood for me."
hmm And for him, because he lost his mom. Like
Right.
the story, the mom had died, and I think, and that had really stunted his childhood because his father withdrew, and he then didn't really have a father anymore. His father was there,
Right.
but they didn't have a relationship. So he kind of lost his childhood early because
Right.
he'd lost his mom and it had affected them so much. So it was kind of like for him too, he needed to experience that again because he had lost it so soon and he
Right.
hadn't been able to like choose to grow up and move on past it. He was forced to.
Right, right, exactly. And she also, I think she's the one that tells him that he needs to drink from the water of life, or he needs to bathe in the water of life. Isn't
hmm
she the one that
Yeah, I
mentions
think
that
she
to him?
does. And he's like, well, how do I get there? She's like, you gotta find your last wish.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and you know, you have to continue on. And when you eventually, when you find your last wish and you know what it is you really want, that's when you'll be able to go.
right.
So, yeah.
And he has the past city that he was in, so he better get it right, because otherwise,
Yeah, no,
otherwise
you
he
don't want to go
knows
back
his
there.
future.
You only got so
But
many wishes left.
so as he's out traveling, the next person that he meets is
Yeah, he
the
goes in
blind
some
miner, right?
snow-covered like landscape in the snowy mountain, and there's nobody but this like old, blind,
Blind
gnarled
miner.
miner guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he like says, he's like, don't make sound, don't speak too loud, whatever. But he ends up explaining to him that he's blind out here, but he can go down into his mind and he can see pictures. And so he's like showing Bastian all these pictures. He's like, don't say anything, no matter what you see, because you'll destroy him. If there's sound, it like shatters them, it destroys them.
Yeah,
And
you have to be
so
really quiet.
yeah, he takes him down. He shows him all these weird pictures. He's like, okay. Afterwards, he's like, what is going on with all the pictures? And he explains that these are the forgotten dreams of Bastian's world, of our world. And
Maybe
they
of the
all go
other like humans that have come through.
right.
Yeah.
All those forgotten dreams. They all go somewhere. And so there's like, and they're describing like I think it was like a woman riding a hippopotamus or something like
hmm
some of them are crazy, some of them are scary, some of them are pretty mundane, they're just all different sizes and there's totally different, like it's so weird.
Yeah.
And he's like yeah, because these are all, so you need to find the one that speaks to you, that's yours, that's something that you can hold on to. And so he kind of he goes through, he looks at all of them. No, none of these speak to me. Again, he's there for a while,
He
and
starts mining with him too. He takes him down,
yeah,
teaches him how
yeah.
to
At
like
first, the guy is
mine in the
like
dark.
bringing them to him, and eventually, he's like, "I think you need to go find it yourself. Like, you need to go down here." So he's showing him how, like, you can't see, but how you can kind of feel for, okay, this is a picture, and then you take it out. It's like paper thin material, whatever it is.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
take it out and you put it in the snow, and then you can see what it is. And he's like, nope, none of these. When he does finally find his, I feel like it was like nothing. Like, I don't
It
remember
was
what it
his
was.
dad in a lab coat 'cause his dad's a doctor of some sort, a scientist of
Oh,
some sort. And so he's like,
okay.
oh, he suddenly felt like he wanted to be with that person. This person meant something to him. And that's when he
Right. Okay.
realized,
Yeah, I
oh,
couldn't remember what
that's
it was.
my
I was like, that's weird.
father. And then at that moment, Atreyu and Falkor show up. All of a sudden they're
Right.
there. And
Well, so
what,
the
what's her name? She had told
little
him when he finds his last, either the miner or the tree lady had told him when he finds his last wish, that's when he would forget his last memory. He'd forget his name. It would be the
right.
last thing he
And
had.
that's why he needed that picture. And he's like, yeah, the miner says, you hold on to this for all it's worth. You do whatever you have to do to not break it because, frankly, it is your only way out. Once you have no memories left of your world, of your past, you will have this. Even if you don't know what it means, you will know that it means your way out.
hmm
You will still have the memory physically, because you will no longer have it in your mind. And
Yeah.
so that's yeah, and then they he meets up with the little guys that we were talking about, how they were like the ugly little worms, and he turned them into these like ridiculous clown-like butterfly things. They come back, they find him, and they basically destroy it. They are just reckless and crazy, and they're like angry at him, and they're like, "So why don't you come and give us a purpose?" And he's like, "Bros, I need to leave. I need to get out of here. You know." But they end up shattering his picture, and he's like, "It's ruined. It's all ruined. It's all for nothing." But what he has that maybe some of the other humans didn't have is Atreyu and Falkor.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
so,
so that is different than what I read. That whole the butterfly coming back was not in the version of the book that I read. The
really,
physical book that I had. It didn't have that. They never came back.
what? Okay, so then you
Yeah,
tell me
just
what happened
Falkor
with.
and Atreyu were just there after he realized what the picture was, and then he ran to them, and at that point he'd forgotten his name. So
Really?
I've read a different version apparently.
So then what? So then whatever happened with the
He didn't
dream?
take the picture with him. He just once he saw it, he knew what it was he really wanted, what his last wish was, and once he knew what his last wish was to go home and be with his dad. Then he lost his name. But that's when Atreyu and Folklore come, and they're like, "Well, now we're going to take you to the waters of life."
Right. So that's really interesting. So yeah, in the version that I read,
I guess maybe it's a different edition or something.
yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so
I
I mean,
like
so
that though.
the
That brings them back in, and that makes sense of why, like, there's a consequence of what he did, and then they
right,
destroy the thing. But yeah, because he has friends, he has Atreyu and Folklore. They're able to help him figure out
right,
what he needs to
exactly.
do. Yeah.
So
So what
yeah,
happens
so
next?
they get him to well, and they have Orin. He puts Orin.
When he sees Atreyu,
Down.
he's like, he gives him Orin
That's right. That's right. He gives
right
it to
away.
Atreyu. And that was kind of that was important too, the fact that he gave him willingly. Back in the Silver City, way back at the beginning of the second part, right?
Uh-huh.
He when he meets up with Atreyu, and Atreyu's like, "Oh, you have Orin now." And he's like, "Oh yeah, here, you want it back?" And Atreyu's like, "No, if she gave it to you, there must be a purpose behind it,
Yeah. Yeah.
even though it seemed kind of weird to him. But then like later when he's you should not be using this. He's like I think it's Falkor. It's it's either Falkor or Bastian. That's like, isn't that ironic that like clear back in the beginning, like he
You want,
willingly
yeah,
tried to give
Falkor
it
said
to
that.
you?
He was going to
Yeah,
give it to you, and now he doesn't want to give it to you, and you want to take it.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now he does willingly give it to Atreyu. You're right.
He has to. That's part of what he needs to do, is he needs to give it to him of his own will. Because that's
Right.
ultimately what needed to happen.
Right. The snakes. It ends up like becoming larger or something, and the snakes become the
Like they're suddenly like in this like alternate like this room. They just suddenly appear in this room, and there's the fountain of like the waters of life,
water.
whatever. But like the snakes are now like these huge oversized snakes, and they're kind of guarding the uh
Right.
the entrance in and the entrance out
Right.
to
And
the
because
fountain.
they're the two snakes that there's a white one and a black one, and they're each holding each other's tails.
Yeah,
That's how it's the never-ending story, because you it never ends, right?
yeah.
And so they like you have to prove that.
You have to know your name.
Oh yeah, you have to tell them your name. And Atreyu says, "I'm Atreyu, and this is Falkor." And then when Bastian no longer remembers his name, he's got Atreyu there. And Atreyu's like, "This is Bastian." And Falkor is translating
What the snakes are saying. Yeah,
the
yeah.
snakes
That
are
was
saying. Yeah.
interesting. I like that.
Um because he's is it the snakes or the water? I think it's
It
the
might have been the
water
water,
that's
actually.
talking.
It might have been the water.
Yeah, because the water of life and the luck dragon, even though they're fire and water, but they're both elements of joy. And so he says, "Oh yeah, all the joy languages we can kind of interpret what each other is saying." So he's
Yeah.
interpreting for him. He's like, "Ooh, I don't think it's going to be sufficient, Atreyu, for you to say his name. He's supposed to say his name." And Atreyu says, this is Bastian, and I can, me basically,
I
and
vouch for him.
I vouch for him." And so the black snake, one of them, lifts up and allows Bastian in. Does
Yeah, and
he
then,
get
but to
his
go into the
memories?
water, he has to give up all of his gifts, all the things that
Yeah,
he got from his wishes, all his
yeah,
abilities, like his perfected body,
and
whatever. He has to give that
right,
all up in order to go into the water.
yeah. And I like that, like he goes into the water and then he changes back into who he always was, you know.
Uh-huh.
And that's when Atreyu's like, "Now you look like the guy I knew."
Like
Like,
that's who you are. Yeah.
yeah, like he knew him back in the Silver City because of his person, right? Like he's like, "Oh, I thought that might be you, but you look so different." And at the time,
Yeah.
Bastian was like, "How do I look different?" Because he's already forgotten,
Yeah.
right? And he's like, "This is how I've always looked." But but yeah, Atreyu was like kind of like, "Huh, there's something about this guy that seems familiar, but I don't know." And it's only after all of that happens and he's like, "It's me," that Atreyu's like, "Oh my gosh, somehow it is you."
That is you. Yeah. Okay.
You know? And so now he sees them and he's like, "Yes, this is the Bastian that I know." You know? At that point, does he get his memories back or
Yeah, I think he got his memories
yeah,
back at that
that's
point.
what I was
But
thinking too.
like, but they're saying the only way he could leave, what I was telling him is the only way he could leave is if he goes back into Fantasia and finishes all the stories he started. He's like, but I can't. If I go back, then I can never come back here. And so
Right.
then Atreyu says, "Oh, I
True.
can go and finish your stories for you. I will go
Right.
back and I will fulfill all the promises that you made. I will go finish all the stories. I can
Yep.
do it for you."
Which they had there was foreshadowing of that too when he's back with Morgrim,
Morgamon, the
Morgamon, yeah, whatever
The,
his name
the
is.
the lion, yeah.
When he because the lion he turns to stone every night and then he's essentially reborn or whatever
Yeah.
in the morning. And while he was turned to stone and Bastian is leaving, he
Yeah, he's like, I promise
promises
I'll come back.
I'll come back. And then it says, the narrator says he didn't know it then, but he wasn't going to be able to keep that promise, but one would come in his name.
Yeah.
And now at the end, Atreyu says, "I will go. I will finish the stories. I will keep your promises
Yeah.
so that you can go home. The stories will be finished in order to allow you to go home."
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's when the white snake then
Yeah.
um, rises up and lets him come. But he's supposed to bring the waters of life to our world, but at the
Yeah.
same time, he's not allowed to take anything with him. And so he's like, "Well, how do I do this?"
Yeah.
And ultimately, so when he's back in our world, he's like pretty sure, like he's like, "I have no idea how much time has passed because I've been there for years."
Feels
Like,
like, yeah.
yeah, he's like, because I spent months at her house and I spent months at the mine and I spent weeks traveling and so he's like, "How long have I been gone?" And he's looking around the school and there's no people there and he's like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm still my child self, and so okay, so can't have been gone too long. So what's going on with the world?" Like he's so confused as to and he's back to being his old like fat untalented self, I guess, for
Yeah.
lack of a better description. And so he ends up there's no one there, not even the janitor or whatever. And so he knew that they were doing some work on the side of one of the
Yeah, he
walls, the
can't get
exterior.
out.
And so he goes through a second story window onto a rickety scaffolding to get out of the school. And he doesn't really see very many people. He mentions that there are a few people out and about, but like it's weird. Like there's just not a lot of people. And he's like, "I don't know what to think about this." He goes back to his father's house and his dad is there. And his dad is like, "Bastian, oh my gosh." And he like gives him a hug and he kind of like eventually Bastian finds out like he was only gone for like a day. And
Mm-hmm.
like he was missing and his father had called the police. And eventually his dad has to like call them back and be like, "He's home, he's safe. Thank you so much, but search is over." Which nowadays the cops would be like, "We need to come and interview him and find out what's going on." But I
We need
guess
more
back then,
information. Yeah.
right, I guess back then the cops were like, "Oh, cool," you know.
Okay,
So
goodness.
he
Yeah.
was he was only gone for like the weekend or something. Like because it was a school day. I don't know if in Germany if they have school on Saturdays, but the dad is like when he's like, "How long have I been gone?" And he says, "Oh, well, only since you went to school yesterday." I thought he said yesterday, maybe he said Friday.
Hmm.
But when Bastian's like, "Well, how was it that there was nobody at the school? There was nobody hardly in the streets." And he's like, "Well, it was Sunday."
Yeah.
And so he's only been gone for like a day or two, you know? And the part that I feel like was maybe not as solid of writing as a lot of the rest of it was when he tells his father all of this stuff. His dad just goes, "Amazing," and just believes him. So I do
I think
like,
he's just happy to have his son back, that he doesn't
maybe,
care.
yeah,
What he
maybe
says,
he's
he's
just
like,
like,
you seem so
"Great."
convinced, and like he has all this detail. He's like, something clearly happened. I don't know what exactly, but whatever it was, I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Like
Yeah.
I just kind of got this like sense like that his dad was like, "Okay." And but he does notice that his dad is crying, and when he sees the tears, he's like, "I did it. The waters of life." Like that's
Yeah,
it.
because his dad wasn't showing his feelings. He wasn't showing his emotions. But in that
Right.
moment, his dad is having feelings. His dad is his
Right.
reconnecting with who he was. And so he's like, yes, that it has come
Right.
back.
I've brought the waters of life to this world by sharing Fantastica. And
Hmm.
so and then he has to go to Mr.
Return the book.
Coriander, and he's like, "I gotta tell him that I lost this
I lost the
book."
book. Yeah, so
And
the book was gone when he came back. It
that's right.
wasn't there. Right.
And so when he goes to Mr. Coriander, he's like, "What book?" Because like I said, you get an inkling from the very beginning when Bastian first takes the Neverending Story, like you get the feeling that Coriander is kind of setting him up. Like he knows
Yeah, he kind of
what's
left the book sitting there because he knew he would take it.
right.
And
And
yeah,
I like that in the movie they kind of show that. Like he's like this gruff old man, brr, 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 and then he takes the phone call and he's talking to whomever and he sees Bastian take the book and he even kind of like watches him with a smile as he's walking out of the or
nose
running
smile.
out of
Yeah.
the shop. I like that they did that because that does kind of feel like what is happening here.
Hmm.
And eventually through like he's like, "Okay, you're going to tell me that you stole a book from me and that you got sucked into this fantasy world. Tell me everything." So he doesn't tell him as detailed a story as he tells his dad, because telling his dad took like a day almost. Like
Uh-huh.
it took
Yeah.
like quite a long time. Um, Telling Mr. Coriander just takes a couple hours, but he still gives him the gist of what's going on. And he's like, "And now that I get to the end of it, you've been there. You know this. Like you're one of me. Like you're one of us, right?" And
Yeah.
Coriander's like, "Yeah." That he's like, "You probably never find that book again, but there are many doorways. This store is probably full of doorways to Fantastica that will open when and if you or anybody else needs them to, or whatever."
Yeah.
And I don't know. I really liked that. I kind of liked the Coriander character being brought back in because, like you said, there's a lot of times when it's like it introduces the character, but then they serve their purpose and they're gone,
Uh-huh.
and it kind of feels odd to be thrown away. I know several times you have talked about like the whole if you're gonna put an ice monster in the prologue of your book, you better
Hmm.
have an ice monster, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
like and that's kind of what in this case a lot of times this book is like, "And here's a will-o'-the-wisp," or whatever, done.
Yeah.
"And here's this other character," and you never see anything about him again, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, what?" It's too much. But
Okay.
I like that Mr. Coriander comes back in the end and kind of is the
Explains that.
um yeah, almost like the strange uncle in Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's kind of been there the whole time, sort of mentoring him and mentoring Bastian through it, even though he hasn't actively been mentoring him, but like
Yeah,
he
he was waiting for him all
like
this time. He knew
yeah.
who he was.
Yeah.
So yeah. So then like after that, what happens with him and his dad?
I remember they make up. Oh, this is dad like, we'll go to the zoo or whatever you want. You don't have to go to school
But yeah, he's
today.
like, we'll play hooky. I'm like, let's go hang out. Let's go do something. And like,
Yeah,
so like the dad's ready to realizes he hasn't been there for his son. He needs to be involved with his son again, and that like he almost lost him, and this is all he has left. And he's like, you know what? I'm ready to do it. I'll do whatever I need to do. Let's get to know each other again, you know? And
right,
that's the ending of the book.
right.
Right.
So briefly, I want to go over the movie because I don't, honestly, I didn't really
I feel
like the
like you
second
have to
movie.
know all that to understand how messed up the second movie is and how bad
Right,
it is.
right.
That's
You're
why I was
correct.
like, we got to tell you the whole second part of the book.
Right. So in the second movie, obviously in the end of the first movie, he has come back to the real world, to our world. And so
Yeah.
they got to get him back somehow, right? So it
Yeah.
looks like a few years has gone by. He's grown up, right? He's at least a couple of years older. Um,
Yeah, but he's
and
apparently lost his courage and everything that he gained. He's lost it
right,
again.
all of the growth that he went through in the first one is like
Gone.
more or less like I guess if you don't use it, you lose it kind of a thing. I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
But anyway, and he has made friends with Mr. Coriander. In the second movie, he like goes back to see him and he's like, "Hey, thanks for letting me hang out with you. It's been a little while since I've seen you." Like they're buddies now, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the Neverending Story is there again,
Mm-hmm.
and and it seems like it's called the Childlike Empress is calling him from the
Yeah.
book, and Coriander's like, "Oh, no, 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 you don't want that. Like, let me like he I guess Bastian had tried to make the swim team and he had to go onto the super high dive and jump off and he
And he
wasn't
couldn't do
willing to. He
it.
was super scared and he saw like rushing waterfalls all around him and he's like, "Oh no, I can't do it." And he wimps out. And so he's like, "Hey Coriander, do you have any books on like self-help courage type books?" And he sees the Neverending Story, he hears the Neverending Story, and Coriander's like, "No, listen. That book asks too much of you. Don't do
He's
it."
like, but I've already read it. It's like, yeah, but it's not the same book anymore.
Right.
Each time
And
you read the book, it's gonna be different.
right. And so he kind of does the same thing again, where he's like, "No, I gotta take it. I have to." And he kind of like charges out, and Coriander's like, "All right," like, "I guess we're on again." And so he actually goes to like touch the symbol of Orin and like very bad graphics. He like scoops it
Pulls it
off
out.
of the cover and it doesn't it just whisk him away at that point.
Or like he puts it in his pocket and then he starts reading and then like he goes into the
Oh
book.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's right. He like puts it down his shirt or something.
Like, all right.
And anyway, yeah, so when he's whisked into Fantasia, he's whisked directly to the
Oversee.
outskirts of the lake.
Yeah.
The the Lake of Tears. Only it's not tears in this case, it's just acid.
Acid,
And
yeah.
that's why they have all of these metal ships, is because that's the only thing that can withstand the acid. But you meet, what's her name again?
Zaid.
Zaid. Why do I keep forgetting her name? Anyway, so you meet Zaid right away, and she is the antagonist of the movie. She has put a curse on him that every time he wishes with the Orin, uh, one of his memories will like form into like a little crystal ball or whatever, and
Yeah.
she's taking them from him.
In this machine that her guy made or
Her
whatever.
minion made.
And
Yeah.
somehow they're connected to Orin. I don't know how. They don't explain that. And
Yeah.
somehow they're able to concentrate his memory into this little memory ball, which
Right.
I have to wonder, did the people of Inside Out get that idea from this movie?
Right. Because it does seem
Like
very
you could look
similar.
in it and then see the memory.
Right.
Yeah, so
And
it's very, yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
so that already is quite different, even though they kept the concept that like wish on the Orin lose a memory, but in this
Yeah, but
case she's
that was a
taking it.
natural effect of the Orin of the book. And this thing,
Right.
she's making it happen, and she's
Right.
taking his memories. And when he's used all his memories up, then he'll be empty, and she can control it.
Right.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the plan.
so they're in the Silver City. It is not a tournament. All the people there are just like weirdly dancing around, which made
They're
no
floating. I'm
sense
like,
to
what
me.
is going on? Nobody acted that stupid in the first movie.
Right. Like it was so odd, but whatever.
No
Um
explanation for it.
her she also has a minion that's like a bird guy that
Yeah, they're supposed to go and like be your spy and befriend him and everything.
yeah, we
And
kept
his
calling
name's
him the
Nimbly.
chicken.
And he's not in the book.
No.
But like, he's the only thing I think is kind of cool about the movie because he has a really cool costume and like he does a really good job of like being this character.
Yeah,
He's the
I
only like
love his
decent actor
eyes.
in the movie, in my opinion.
I love all of the acting that he does through his eyes and like the way that he'll like,
Yeah,
you
like
know,
he acts like
like
it's not just a costume he's relying on. He's like acting like he's a bird person.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I did notice that like I loved the emoting that he did with his eyes, like they told you as much as his
what he
words
was
told you,
saying.
you know.
Yeah,
But you know what made me laugh so hard was Zaid's eyes, how she was being wicked
she
and
is
like
evil witch.
moving her eyebrows so much. I was like, stop it. She's always like, I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you doing?
She's making evil eyes. Even if like what she says sounds nice, he should know just by her evil animated
Right.
cartoony eyes that
You
she's
know
up
she's
to no
evil because
good.
her eyebrows go like this. It was so weird. But anyway, um, so the basic premise is she wants to make him empty because
She can
then
have his
she can
wishes or something.
essentially, what's that?
She can have his wishes and control him or something, or
Right. Yeah,
she can control
she wants
Orin
to
somehow
control
through
him
him.
and she wants to take over the Empress. Like she even is like looking at the ivory tower and she's like, "Just wait, Empress, I'm coming after you. Your tower will be as dark as mine." Like she is the queen
Yeah,
of
she's
emptiness,
turning it
right?
into a prison, or yeah.
Yeah. So he goes through similar things where he is going on this journey. She does do the ruse where she's like, "Ah ha ha, we have attacked you," and she kidnaps Atreyu. Um, and
There's no army of people that are following him.
no,
There's no like giving them the library of the Silver City, which is one of the coolest things.
right.
That's there. There's no
Almost no
knights.
interaction with other characters in Fantasia at all. But
He does make a random dragon called Smurg for no good reason
right, he's
when
like,
he's
"Ooh,
got
make this
Falkor.
dragon." Like that was dumb. I think it
Yeah.
was to kind of convey that concept of like he needs to be careful because sometimes your wishes come true, you know?
Yeah, and you cannot control them. Yeah.
Yeah. And like that's fine. I believe they even doesn't Atreyu go, "I'm going to chase it" or whatever and he like runs out of the Silver City. Like it's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But whatever. But
And he had Atrax because in this universe, Atrax came back in the previous movie.
right,
So
right. And then you randomly just see Falkor like off in the corner. He's like, "Oh hey, I'm here too." Like it's
I
kind
was
of
like,
dumb,
oh, hey.
but whatever. But anyway, so
I think
they do
first,
the
hold on. First, like her giants attack the Silver City, and then
right.
he finds himself inside this underground room of like, you've come
Oh
into the room
yeah,
of secret plots. And they made all these random new characters that are gross and weird and strange that tell
right,
him, like, send him the message from like the Empress and tell him that they can't get a hold of the Empress. And then
right.
like what
Which they
my
also
son kept
changed
pointing out
her.
is nobody's calling her Mood Child. She has a name now. Nobody's calling her by this
Well,
name.
so but she looks different, and
Yeah.
I think they were trying to speak to the fact that because it says that every time she's given a new name, it's like she's a new empress. Oh, in the book they actually talk about that, and I skipped it, but they talk about how the concept that you can never meet the empress twice is not correct, but you never meet the same one because she's always someone different.
She's sort of
When
reborn too.
when
Yeah.
yeah, when Coriander met her, he gave her a name. And when she was dying and she needed a new name and whoever else, maybe it was Bastian, maybe there's people in between, we don't know. But when Bastian gave her the name Moonchild, she became Moonchild. She
Became a
was
new
that
person. Yeah.
childlike empress. And so now
She
she's
looks
someone
different.
different. Maybe whoever she was looked like that. He gave her the name Moonchild, and now she looks like this. Or
Hmm.
maybe someone else has named her since then, because
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
time in Fantasia works very differently than time in our world.
Yeah.
So, but she looks weird now, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
But
Partially because it's been how much time between movies?
so I think it's been about 10 years or
10
something
years. Okay,
between
so
the movies.
completely different actor playing Bastian, doesn't
Yes.
have the same kind of energy at all. So
No.
like, and then different kid playing Atreyu, but same actor playing Coriander,
Yes,
which
which
is
I
one thing
kind
I'm
of
like,
love.
if you're gonna have to replace everybody else because of time and everybody growing up, do not have any of the same actors because that's very off-putting.
So I love that Coriander was still the same character
Oh,
just
okay.
because otherwise, well, just be like, because it felt like it was its own story. Like it felt like this was not the Neverending Story because they were all different people, but they were using the same names. Like the dad was totally different. He like was a totally different personality even
Yeah,
in
too.
the
And he
previous
had a
dad.
different job too with an engineer instead of a doctor.
Right. And
And
like
he's played by the guy that plays the original Flash from the original Flash TV show, and
right,
also plays Flash's dad in the new WB Flash TV show. So that was
which
fun
I
for me because I was like, hey, I know this actor.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and the thing is I recognize him and I'm like, I should know that. I had to look him up to be like, but
That's it is. Yeah.
anyway.
Hmm.
But yeah, so anyway, everybody's different, but we need like but you're just supposed to what is it, suspend your disbelief or whatever that's called. Um and just go with it. Oh, he's a Atreyu because they told us he's a Atreyu,
Yeah.
like and so yeah,
Even though they don't
so
act like the same, they don't act like the actors before did. Even though they're different
no.
actors, they're not seeming to play the same character. The character has
Right.
changed. And
Right.
also, the actors in the first movie were better. Like the little kid actors that played Atreyu, you believed he was Atreyu.
Oh,
Like
he was
he
awesome.
sold that. He had
Yeah.
a real emotion, and like
And
he
he,
sold it totally. And then even Bastian, who's kind of over the top and silly, you still believe that he believed he was who he was.
right.
Like
Well, and
you
yeah,
don't
and
see him acting.
you saw that he was the kid that like wanted to be the fantasy character. Like I said,
Yeah,
when he said all the silly things, no, I mustn't. Because in his mind, like he was already like, I shall be the hero. Like he was
yeah.
already there. And so he said the silly thing. No one else was there to see it. It was just him in his own little fantasy world, you know.
Hmm.
So fine. So it's silly, but I can get there, right? And yeah, and these guys, I mean, I didn't hate the
They were bad
Bastion.
actors. I'm sorry. The one kid that plays Bastion, I've seen him in other things, and this is like the worst thing I've ever seen him do.
Yeah,
This like
that's
it was the
yeah.
bad acting, and his face was just as bad as Zayed. Where like and he said all these dumb things, and
His
like they tried to modernize him and everything, and it was just he was stupid. He was bad. He was so
yeah.
bad, and oh gosh,
Yeah.
like he wasn't even the same character, but this version was even like what? He was just bad. And even Atreyu, the actor playing Atreyu was super bad
Yeah.
and like
That's
snarky and
yeah,
not Atreyu.
I was thinking I was like I didn't mind Bastian so much because all the others were awful. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
because
Bastian was pretty bad. This actor
yeah,
was really
like
horrible and put his name up there. No offense to the guy, but he was bad.
oh there are other things that I've seen him in that I feel like I've liked it
He was
fine.
not this bad in other things. Like
Right.
I don't know if this was his first thing. Again, I'd have to check.
Everybody has something awful. I always think of Elijah Wood's portrayal of the Artful Dodger. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, it's the worst thing in the world. I love Elijah Wood.
yeah.
I cannot think of three things that I hate of his, but that
There's
one
at
I
least
hated.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, and so
exactly.
there's always something that you're like, mer mer. Anyway, but
Yeah.
so where did I go? Oh,
Okay.
so sorry, I got lost. I got off of
It's my
the
fault. It's my fault.
um how far
So
did we
they,
get? Oh, so they're in her castle, and she does do the thing where like uh Bastian and Atreyu in the movie they do defeat several of her giants, and she does do the thing where she's like, "Oh, you've bested my giants. I must be your servant now. You're amazing. You won." Like she
yeah,
does
and he's
start to
like,
do
oh, I
that.
did it.
Yeah, it was funny. He's like, I did. I defeated them. And Atreyu like, we. Like,
We did.
okay. But and they do have the same like she gives him the belt of invisibility. He does witness the same conversation. That conversation is essentially the same that Falkor and Atreyu have where they're like clearly he's losing his memories Zaid is like,
Responsible in this version. Yeah, they're like somehow
yeah,
she's responsible because
they
somehow
didn't
Atreyu
know
saw
how.
the thing.
Yeah, had Atreyu already seen it at that point?
Yeah, so at this point
He did.
he realized he was losing his memories and like
Right.
he watched nimbly like watch the thing
Look
because
at
it's at the
it.
top of her carriage,
Right.
whatever, and him like look at the memory and see what it was. And the memory
Right,
was
that's
really
right.
dumb, where the mom's like, "Oh, we're all a part of the never-ending story," but
Also,
she's never
he
read
doesn't
the
know the
book.
Neverending Story.
And
Also, she
yeah, go
died
ahead.
when he was a boy, and
A
now,
lot younger. Now he died just recently.
right, now he's holding her hand as this actor. Like, that was so dumb.
Yeah,
Like,
and
yeah,
her
and
saying
she,
that about the never-ending story is like, what? But
yeah, it
that's
made
what
me so,
touched Nimbley and changed Nimbley's feelings about it, where he felt like, I need to stop this. I need to help him and warn
yeah,
him or
like,
something.
he saw that. Yeah, at the moment, Nimbly was like, wow,
Good
that's
to know.
really comforting. That's a good thing to know and to hold on to, the concept that we're all part of the never-ending story, right? And
Yeah, they
so
all
yeah,
mean something.
so they have the same conversation that Bastian does sneak in and hear the portion that he hears, right? And that kind of all plays out similarly to where he's like, "Get out of here! I don't want you." Blah blah
Yeah, it's like the
blah.
really like dumbed down version of it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the a really like kind of seems dumb. Like this whole thing kind of seems dumb. But anyway,
He falls off the mountain, whatever, because of their fight, and he looks like he got hurt, and Falkor takes him.
right. Like that does all, like it kind of condenses not only that conversation and the fallout of that conversation, but then the war, because there is no war because there's no
There's no war.
coronation. Like, you know, but yeah, they have a fight, they tussle, Atreyu falls down, and Bastian says something that's so like jerky. It's something like, "It's what you deserve," or
You brought this on yourself.
yeah, you brought this on yourself, which I wanted to be like, oh man, slap him right in his
That
face.
was dumb. And
But
then like he walks in on Nimley and her like seeing one of his last memories showdown, like coming to the ball, and he's like,
yeah,
ah, he
it's
was
all
right.
true.
And
Yeah,
then she's like, you have two memories left, two more wishes, and then you're empty and like control you or something. And then he
right,
runs off.
right. And I like that at that point, that's when Nimbly goes, okay, it's time for me to make a choice. And he chooses to help Bastian. But then when he goes to talk to Bastian, it's kind of weird because he's like, listen, we all have our roles to play. My role is a spy. So
He's
I
like, I can't come with you. He's like, well, you can choose
yeah,
your role.
I kind of wanted to be like, dang it, because many people know my favorite story arcs are the redemption stories.
Mm-hmm.
I love the person who was the bad guy and chooses to be good.
Yeah.
That to me is the true hero. Like you can what is it, Mary Sue? Into be I feel like Harry Potter is kind of a Mary Sue, right? Like he
Mm-hmm.
does have to make choices. I'm not like downgrading
Harry Potter.
everything that they wrote into that was written into Harry Potter. But
He
he was
starts
always the
off as the
good.
good guy. He's
Yeah,
not the
he was
bad
he was
guy.
always the good guy. Everyone sees him as the good guy, even as people are like, maybe he's the bad guy. The reader is like, Dadoy, he's not. And then you have other characters like Malfoy, who has to choose to leave what he is,
Mm-hmm.
or
It
Snape,
turns out
who
Snape is
has to
actually a
make
good guy when you thought he was bad all this time.
right, because there was a point that he was the bad guy, and he had to make some hard choices and change, right? And
Yeah.
so I loved that. I was like, I'm so glad that they have the Nimbly character in here because they finally have a redemption story. Finally, there's
But then he
someone
takes the
who,
cop out. It's like, I can't change. Whereas it would have been nice if Bastian had said, yes, you can.
right,
I've made mistakes and I'm going to try to make it right. You can make it right. And
right.
you can choose to do the right thing and then take him
It
with him. That would have been a better
it kind of reminds me
thing to
of
do.
Matilda. We were doing the musical well, we did
Uh-huh.
Matilda a while ago, and we were talking
Yeah.
about the musical and how she's like, why didn't they just change their story? Like why did they have to stay stuck in their story, in what someone else told them to be? Like
Yeah.
that's foolish. If you have the choice, choose better, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that was the perfect opportunity for Bastian to say something similar. You have the choice. Choose better. But it didn't happen, so fine.
unfortunately. That would have
Um,
redeemed it a little bit.
yeah, he was redeemed. I do feel like it was a redemption story. He did choose. He even says, "Time for me to make a choice." And he chose better.
Yeah.
So I'm good with it, but they kind of petered out.
Yeah, it
It's
could they could have gone more with that. But anyway, so
yeah.
what happens next? How does this end?
Um, I'm trying to remember how he gets.
So
Does
I think
he
Emily tells him that Atreyu and
like beyond these rocks, right?
beyond these rocks, if you keep going, like you'll make it to the Silver City. It's changed, and
Oh,
that's where Atreyu, where Falkor took Atreyu, and
right.
he
And
wants to go help Atreyu.
he's like laying nearly dead, and that's where Bastian does his like the first truly selfless thing that he's done. He's like, I've got two memories left, my mother and my father, and he's like, my mother would want this. And so he sacrifices his memory of his mother to save Atreyu.
He says like, "I wish
And
Atreyu was better."
yeah. And yeah, he wishes him well again. And then Atreyu's like, your mother would have been proud. And he's like, mother?
What mother?
And it's funny because he's like, dang it, Falkor, you let him use a wish? And he's like, I'm not the
Oh,
boss of
you could
him.
have
Like,
stopped him.
right.
Yeah.
Um, but then is that when Zaid shows up or do they make
Yeah,
it?
Zaid shows up all of a sudden. She's like,
Yeah.
but she went the underground way
Oh, that's
to,
right.
to try to get to the Silver City and try to cut off Falkor or try to get wherever
They're
what's his
trying to
name
go
was
to the
going.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Bastion, yeah.
but yeah, I love so they do make it back to the Silver City. Like I don't remember how, but they're like
They
back
came
in the
from
Silver City.
underground somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. And oh, that's right. When Nimbly had said beyond these rocks, he says beyond these rocks you'll see the shores of what used to be the lake, but the lake is dried up or whatever. And that's they're in Falkor has taken him back to the Silver City. That's why he's there. So they're there. Zaid and her monsters show up, and then when she's like, "You've only got one wish left, fool," like you might as well just use it and be done because there's literally you can either use it to go home or you waste it trying to defeat me and then you lose anyway, right? And so
Yeah.
he's like, "No, you know what? I know what my last wish is going to be. I wish that you had a heart because she is empty, right? She is
Yeah.
the emptiness. And by filling her heart, she has like the Grinch that stole Christmas moment and you see the like
She
tear
suddenly feels something
which represents the like it
like the
hails
living
to
waters.
the father's tear, water of life, right? And so at
She
that
can only
point,
control what's empty, and she's not empty more.
right? And so not only I don't know why she explodes. I don't
Yeah,
understand why
that was
she
weird.
ceases to exist, but she just poofs, and so do all of her monsters, and it like brings life back to the Silver City and to all of
Yeah, because there
Fantasia.
was the emptiness, remember? Like they're like something is attacking, what why he was called back into the Neverending Story because something was happening that there was something that was like everything was empty and like the rock
Right.
biter was there. It was like, oh, the rocks have lost their flavor, and he had this stupid rock baby that was just the
Yes.
stupidest thing, and it's like, and then he had to figure out. He had to find out, give a name to what was happening before he could stop
Right.
it. And then he's like, I know what it is. It's the emptiness.
Right.
And they
Yeah,
found
you're
out that
right.
the like so they're like is they were trying to redo the nothing, but now it's the emptiness, and the emptiness
Yeah.
is making everything fall away. And then when he filled the emptiness, then like everything comes back, and then the Empress shows up, and she's like, "Oh, what does she say? You remember
At the very end?
the
No,
Child
I don't
Empress?
remember.
Yeah,
I don't remember what she says.
she's like, when you filled the emptiness, like." Only thing that can fill emptiness is love, and when you gave her a heart, you filled the emptiness, and whatever. And what one thing that we didn't talk about yet is like in this version, the dad goes trying to find him, finds the
Right.
book. The book is empty when he finds the book in Son's room, realizes he's missing, but he sees an address. So he goes to the bookstore, meets Coriander, and Coriander's like, "Oh, you read my address in this book?" It's like, "Where?" Because now the address is gone. But then
Right.
Coriander's like, "Huh, he was able to read it. Interesting."
Yeah. And the dad keeps saying the stupid, I'm an engineer, so I see what I see when I see it, or something
Yeah, yeah.
stupid.
So it's
I'm
like,
like, what does
okay.
that even mean? Like,
Yeah, that didn't make any sense. But then like he's trying to like figure out where his son is, and then he like gets the cops to come and they come back and like the bookstore is empty
hmm
and all the books are gone. And he's like, what the?
right,
And then he goes back and he starts reading the book. So now suddenly there's words again. And he sees his son's name in the book and he starts reading the book. And he's like, and it's talking about me. And he's like, my son's in this book. And so he gets all involved. And like, I thought they were going to have the dad go into the world, but
right,
instead
and
they
help
had the
him.
dad take the place of the reader. And
Yeah,
now at the
which,
end,
yeah,
when like after the Empress is like, oh, okay, so you're on out of wishes, you can't go home. It's like the only way you can do it is like you have to just make a leap of faith and jump into
and
this.
he sees the waterfalls that he saw
Yeah, the
before.
which I thought was dumb. It should have looked like it was part of Fantasia. Like
Yeah,
just jumped into the water to get back, and you had
right,
to make the leap. And he hears his dad say, well, "You found courage. You can do it." So he hears his dad talking, and he's
right,
like, "Oh, it's my dad. My dad's there." He's like, "Because how would he remember his dad? He just gave up his last wish." But he's like,
right,
"She's like, that's your father, and like you can do this." He's like, "Okay," and so then he jumps off, and then the dad's like, hears him knocking, and he's just at the door.
right. So the part that really was weird to me was that, excuse me, hold on, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh no, I'm not. Sorry, that was almost a sneeze, but it wasn't. So the part that was really, really weird to me was that as the dad is reading this, like he's like getting super sweaty and he's in this
Getting
really
into it.
dark place. And I'm like, why is he sweating so bad when he's just sitting in the room? And why is it so dark? How does he even read in this darkness? Like,
Yeah.
that was so weird to me. However, I did like it better than how I said like in the book, like how he's like telling his dad all this stuff. It's taken him like all day to tell him the story, and in the end, his dad is like crying and just like I accept, like just like okay. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess maybe it spoke to his spirit
Yeah, I
or
kind of
something.
liked having the dad reading it and sort
Yeah.
of being part of it. I like that at that. I like seeing the dad trying to find him. I like that. That's one of the things they did in this movie that I thought actually was an improvement over the book.
Yes. That's
That and
that's what
Nimley.
I'm saying.
Nimley, I like Nimley. But like,
Yep, I liked Nimbly's story. I liked the dad's story in the second one.
yeah.
Um, I
So
also
then when
like
he
that
comes
they
back, the dad's like, I saw it, I read it all. And he's like, I
right.
heard you. And like, yeah,
Well, and yeah, and the concept that dad could read it because
he needed to be a
apparently,
part of the story too. He
right,
also needed to learn something. He needed to gain something. And the fact that
right,
he could even read it said, oh, this is important. And like
right.
Coriander's like, oh, hold on a second.
Ooh, wait a
Okay.
minute.
I
Yeah,
kind of thought he was going to take it into the book, but I was okay with it in the end that he just helped him come back and
right.
help him have the faith to come back, whatever. But
Yeah, I liked that as much as I thought that it was weird the way that they did some of it.
yeah,
I appreciated the dad's
aspect of it. Yeah.
reading it. Yeah, yeah. So I really like that. But honestly, I did not like this movie. The
Yeah,
second one.
it's a dumpster fire of a sequel. It's like they dumped it down as much as possible. And I think, yeah, you're thinking partially it could be because of, it's more epic. And like even my son said, this movie feels so small compared to the first movie. And I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, it feels like they didn't have the budget, they didn't have the time. And then you explained they had to change it enough that they
right,
couldn't be sued. So it's
right.
inspired by it, but it wasn't actually the book. But like they kind of took down all like they nubbed it down a lot. And they
Yeah,
lost all like the meat of the second half of the book, all the deepness, because that's where all like the deeper meaning and like he actually learns things in the second half of the book.
right,
But then this version, they just took it down to the bones and it lost everything.
right.
And so like it's like, oh. And,
Like
and
it,
and so after reading, so it was hard for me to read this whole book. And just as I was like, I feel like I should be done with this, and it just kept going and going. And I couldn't listen to it at work because it wasn't an audiobook. I had to read it physically when I wasn't at work, and so I was having the hardest time finding time to read it. And I felt like it was the never-ending story because like there was more story than I thought there was, and it was taking me forever to finish it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this book's never gonna end. And my husband's like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so funny watching you talk about this book because like you're just so animated about it. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was hating the book until I got to the end of the book. And then I was like, okay, now that I've read the whole book, now I
right,
appreciate the book. And now I was
right,
like, this this version, the whole book deserves its own remake. It deserves a modern remake, and I'm surprised no one has done it.
Hmm.
Especially since I'm pretty sure the author's dead by now.
I
We'll find
think
out.
so. I don't know.
There's a whole lot of stuff I gotta like fill in and like explain. But yeah, so he's probably gone by now. You probably could. And even so, I think that modern day people, hopefully, somebody who actually appreciated this book would go, you know what? There's a lot more to the story. And if you
Hmm.
had the whole story, even if you had to do two movies, like part one and part two,
Right.
it would still be better because if it was actually done true to what was happening to the story and they got the heart of it and they did the actual story, it could be a great movie, a
Yes,
great
I agree.
couple movies, or series, whatever. But like that would be really great. And I kind of hope somebody does at some point. So I didn't even care about the Neverending Story before. Then I read the book and I'm like, you know what? There's so much more to this
Yeah.
story. And
There
wow.
there's there's so much depth to it
Yeah, at
that
first it feels like there is no depth. But then by
right,
the end of the book, you're like, there's a lot of depth. It's just that
right,
at the beginning, he wasn't ready for that depth. So that's why it's so simple and childish. And then as it
right,
gets farther in, yeah, he still keeps doing weird ex machina things and, random storylines just don't end, but that's on purpose. And there's a
right.
reason for it.
Well, and he does he always tells you what he's going to tell you. Like he
Yeah.
does tell you that in the same way that children have an entire lifetime, or people have an entire lifetime to grow and learn, so too does Bastian and do these characters. Like this story does have an entire lifetime within it of learning and growing. And so like you said, like Bastian wasn't ready to just zip into Fantasia and be like, "Oh, cool, let me learn my lessons." Like he
No.
had to learn because ultimately it was um learning to the it's the Moulin Rouge thing, right? Learn to love and be loved in return, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's also learning to love yourself.
Yes.
And also and learning that truly loving yourself is willing to be selfless.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of these are like really deep concepts. They are also necessary for each of us to discover.
Mm-hmm.
And it does take a lot of, you know,
Roundabout ways to
you
get
have to
there.
take every step.
Yeah. So
And
it's like when in the first movie when Trey was like, "Oh," the first book, whatever, part of the book, that Trey was like, "Oh, I almost drowned. My horse was like died. You knew all along what you needed and what needed to happen." She's like, "Yeah, you had to go through that so that the child could go through those experiences with you, so he could grow with you, so that he would be invested in our world. Otherwise, he couldn't come here." And
right.
she's like, "Oh, okay." So when she explains that, you're like, oh, that's why. That's why all this random stuff happens because it had to happen because he had to go through it
Yep.
so that it would be earned.
Yep. And he had to when he's making all these wishes and whatever, he had to learn the responsibility of agency.
Yeah, and he also learned like the consequences of his actions, and he also had to pay for that wish.
Yep.
He had to lose something in order to gain something.
And the concept of like something that when he thought he was doing, he thought he was gonna do that knight like a favor by creating all this havoc because that gave the knight something to do, to be a hero, right?
Yeah,
But actually he did more harm than good. And when he thought he was being nice. He was being nice to the little worm
the
thingies,
acrid, yeah.
but he wasn't being truly kind because
He was
he
just
wasn't
doing like a quick fix, but it didn't really
yeah,
fix the problem.
he wasn't doing good for them because they not only
There was
did
nothing
did
wrong with
he
them to begin with. He could have
right
helped them
like
see what beautiful things they were, what beautiful things they made, and how that
right
was more worth it than being beautiful.
right the concept of are you helping or are you making yourself feel better about the situation? Like
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
these things, there's so much depth in this story, but my goodness, you have to trudge through so much to get to it.
Yeah, you will have to earn it. And so by the end of
Yeah,
it, I don't hate this book. By the end of it, I do like the book and I do think it's a good read. You
I
have to
do
be
like the book.
patient. And it would
Hmm.
have been helpful to know that there was more to the story when I started it. So I
Yeah.
went losing my mind going, when is this gonna end? Where is this going? What is happening here? Because when he
Yeah.
first starts, you're like, where is this going? He's just wandering about and it's just wasting time. And like it takes reading the whole book to see the point of it. When you get to
Right.
the end and you're like, oh, okay, this is all for a reason. It's supposed to
Yep.
feel like he's wasting time because he is wasting time. It's supposed to
Yes.
feel like he's wandering around because he is. And
Yep.
he's supposed to go through all this stuff to get where he needs to go.
Yep.
So,
Well, and it's funny because I ended up taking a kind of childish perspective on this book, and I hate it when my kids do this to me, where I'm like, okay, so here's the thing. Like they'll be in a fight, right? And they come to me and they're like, "Mom, she hit me." No, you just bit whatever. And I'm like, "Stop." Like I want to know from the very beginning. And then they tell me like the thing that just happened, and then the thing just before that,
but what
and
started that? Like you have to
yeah,
go to the beginning. Tell me
and
the whole story.
they tell me the conclusions, right? And then they say, "Well, she hates me," and I'm like, "No,
Well,
no, no,
what
no.
makes you think that?
That's you making a decision for her. I want
Yeah.
to know what caused that thought to come, you know, like." And they get so annoyed, and so I'll like finally get to. I'm like, "So here's what I understand. She said this, meaning whatever over here. However, you took it this way, so you reacted by." And I'm trying to like explain it all to them, and
You're
they're
trying
like,
to interpret
"Mom,
from the nonsense that they told you because them
yeah,
trying to retell you doesn't make any sense. And you have to listen to one side and then the other side and say, okay, this is what I'm getting. Am I missing
right."
something?
And I want them both to hear me tell them every single, like she said, she did not mean it that way, but you
Yeah.
took it that way. And they hate that, like come on, just who's getting in trouble, you know?
No,
And
no,
I'm
no.
like,
You have to listen. This is why you're in this situation in the first place. You weren't listening to what the person said. So now you've started a fight and I had to come
right,
in between you. You have to sit here and understand. And
right,
you're going to sit here as long as I have to explain and get through to you. And they're like, Mom, I want to go back to my thing. I don't care. You shouldn't have
yep,
gotten a fight
nope.
in the first place. You should have listened in the
Like
first place. Now
yeah,
I'm going to teach
they're
you a lesson about listening and I'm going to explain to you what you did wrong.
they're done with
And you're
it.
going to
They're
sit
over
here
it.
and suffer through it.
Yep. Yep. I'm like, no, you're going to hear every step. You're going to see so that when it's your kids, I'm like, no, we're going to go through every part of this. So the next time she says something that you want to be offended by,
You
you're
can
going
go,
to go,
hold on a second.
why would she say that? Or is that what she meant? Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Or do
And
I really want to be sat down by mom and have her lecture me about
right.
everything? Or
I'm
should I
like,
try to fix this myself by thinking practically like she tried to teach me last time?
right, yeah. I'm like, this is what we call conflict resolution. And it's funny because where I work, I, I'm not gonna like call anybody out or anything, but I work with a lot of people and I am a receptionist, customer service, right? My entire existence in that space is someone has a problem and so they come to me. Usually I'm not the one that resolves. Sometimes I am the one that can resolve it.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I'm just finding the right person for
Person to
them to
send them
talk to,
to? Yeah.
right? But oh my gosh, like today I got called a couple of names by a guy who came in because he hadn't done what he needed to do. Okay? He hadn't done what he needed to do. As a result, he did not have access the way that he wanted access,
He then
right?
followed procedures, so then he couldn't do what he wanted to do, and
Correct.
now he's mad about
And
it.
so when he came in and he said, "Hey, you didn't give me the right access," I clickety click and figure out what's going on and I explained to him why he doesn't have that access. I have nothing to do with it, but why he doesn't have that access. And then he called me a bastard.
You're like,
Like,
okay.
and at another point he called me a moron. And like, you know what I mean? Like just this awful childish like
You're like,
gobbledygook. And at one point I said, "Okay, so regardless of how you got here," because he was not willing to listen to me explain that. I'm like, "Here's what we need to do at this point." I didn't say we, I said you. I was like, "Here's what you need to do at this point in order to have the access you're looking for." And he's like, "Oh, you don't have to tell me." And he stormed out. And
you're
then
like,
when he came back, guess what? He had done some of the stuff, but he hadn't done everything because he wouldn't listen to me, you know? And I'm like, "Oh my goodness. you're an adult. You're a person that can vote and make decisions in life, and
You
this is
can't
what's
listen?
like I'm
Well,
like,
he was all like uppity and he was angry and it was like because he was reacting
yeah,
angrily he can't hear and he's not willing to sit down and listen to you because he want to admit that he was wrong. So like he
right.
storms out, but then he has to come back because ironically, and it's
When
like was he apologetic at all?
no, like when I said when he came in, he's like, fine, I'm done. I did, what I can do. And I said, okay, this is what I was trying to explain to you before. There's several steps here, and you have not taken them all. And he got so upset at me. And at that point, somebody else came in, to somebody else in the office came in and kind of took things over and
Mm-hmm.
let me let me not deal with him anymore. But ultimately, he had to come back to me because because I'm customer service. Like because I'm the
It's
one
yeah.
that ultimately he has to deal with. And so it was just so obnoxious. But even at that point, he was like, "Fine, Your Majesty, have I done everything that have I
Like yeah,
groveled
because I
enough?"
made these rules. No, I just work here. Chill.
Yeah, I'm like, follow the law, follow the policy, the company policy. That I'm literally just the person at the desk.
Yeah.
But he was just so ignorant, and I'm like, bro has not learned his lessons, and I don't want my children to be those people, you know. Like, hopefully it doesn't take me dying and you getting whisked away and nearly killed and whatever else, but if it does, find the right book, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Hope so.
But
Okay, so that's a never-ending story, and this might be the never-ending podcast, since this is probably our longest episode we've ever done.
I'll say I
But I
don't
feel
pay
like it
attention to the
needed to
time, but
happen. We needed to explain everything in
yes.
order to talk about everything. So I will
What a way
try
to
to
end the
edit this into
season.
a more condensed version, but it might be as long as reading the book at this point. I don't know. Um, but yeah, so this is our last episode of the season. Is there anything you want to say in conclusion before we close out for season 3 here?
No, just that I love doing this, and I hope that other people are finding it interesting and getting something out of it. And um, I don't know. I don't check the comments. I don't know if you do. I kind of don't handle it, and so I'm sorry if there's comments out there that probably we would be benefiting from that we just haven't seen.
I
But
respond to them. I
you
could
do.
tell you, be like, hey, they said this, or you could always just go look at the video and like
I know. I could do that.
I can respond for you. Yeah, I
I'm
have control
always
over the channel, so
Yeah, I'm always nervous about seeing myself. Like, I will happily like, I watch the Nostalgia Cast videos, and sometimes I will watch these as well. But there's something about seeing myself that I'm like, why did I make that face? Why did I do that? So,
oh
but, but I
yeah.
have a ton of fun doing this, and hopefully it's encouraging other people to start reading and start experiencing
To
more.
read
So,
more, yeah, it definitely read more because of this, and my husband reads more because of this because I have Audible now, and he's like, "Oh, I can do audiobooks." So he started
mhm.
just reading a whole bunch, and before he barely ever read. Like he only read the things he was forced to in school, and now he's like read all like whole collections of authors' works and stuff, and then he got inspired and wrote his own book. And I was like, "Wow, that's cool." If nothing else, it encouraged my husband to read more and to write a book. So I'm
Yep,
like,
that's
that's
cool.
good. And plus, I'm having fun talking to you about books and just fun just to get together. And I do this anyways in my own time. Like, I've always been kind of a book to movie critique person. Critique books, I critique movies, I critique music.
Hmm.
I'm doing this anyways. And it's essentially what I've raised my kids to do, whether I meant to or not. They're little critics too. So then they'll read it with me or they'll watch it with me. And so it's, I'm doing it anyways. I might as well do it as a podcast with
Yeah,
one of my
yeah.
best friends. So,
That's somebody that does watch this a lot. She was saying that she thinks it's hilarious that like you will actually like critique things, and I'm like, I loved it. And even when I don't love it, I'm like, C minus. Like,
yeah, but like you'll actually do the research and like you'll deep dive into more stuff. So that's like your job is to go down the rabbit hole. My job is to
right.
like pick it
Be like,
apart,
yep,
nitpick it, and then we kind of come together and be like, well, what was good about it? What was bad about it? And I like that about it. So we kind of bring
yep.
different things.
Something else that I have been told, at least actually by the same person, but that it seems to be encouraging people to have their conversation because like you and I, like we have been friends since junior high.
Hmm.
However, we had a decade or more in there, and we'll have years at a time that we don't get to communicate with each other really, or we maybe could, but we neither of us make the
Just a
effort or
little
whatever
bit
it
here
is.
and there, yeah.
And this is something like you and I can jump into this, and it's just like we see each other every other week. You know what I mean? Like you can jump in and you can talk with your friend, and you can dislike something that I loved, or vice versa, or you
Yeah.
understand something
And,
totally
and we're
differently.
discussing why, and we're trying to understand why the other person likes it or the other person hates it. And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And so some apparently, at least in one case, seeing us have these conversations, it kind of like opens the door to other people having these conversations, and I think that's great. And so if that's hopeful to all y'all out there, like
that's what I want. I want everybody to be
awesome.
able to have these conversations more because it seems like when I was growing up, people did this more often and it was normal. Nowadays, people just get offended if you don't agree with them on something. It's like, but wait, there's a whole conversation you could have. You could learn something new. Like a lot of things
Right.
you said about this, I'm like, I was ready to hate it to begin with, but like you've add some layers of understanding because you've done the research and like you understood it a different way. That's maybe appreciate certain things that I didn't before. But like if we didn't talk about it, or I got offended that you liked it and I hated it, or
Right.
you vice versa, then there'd be no interesting conversations. And like this is how people get deeper meaning from something is when we listen to each other, like you're talking about before. We listen to what the person's saying instead of just being like, oh, blah, 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 you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you get so much more when we just listen. And then
Right.
you find a deeper meaning to everything. So, anyways, yeah, it's been fun and I love doing this and I plan to do this for as long as you feel like doing it. But this is the end of season 3. So we're gonna take a little break. When we come back, it'll be season 4. So just kind of keep an eye out for when we drop another video. We don't really like plan these things for how long our break will be. Maybe a couple months, maybe a month, who knows? When we decide we're ready, we'll start over again and it'll be season 4 and it will be a whole new batch of things. So, yeah.
Yep. I'm
So,
excited.
thanks everybody for staying with us, especially since this is probably our longest episode. And yeah, until next time, Paperback Flicks, I'm Ruth Craddock.
I'm Rae Davidson.
And yeah, we'll see you next time.